Hello, everybody. Welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's the 30th of May, 2025. It's Friday, and that means it's time to get back to building. I'm trying to reserve Friday shows for our builds, and we started last Friday by getting our motherboard all prepped to put into the Lian Li Digital 207 or 207 Digital from Lian Li, which I think is a great price for this case. It's an attractive case with just a smidge of RGB, which I am totally fine with. And we have not done anything with regards to familiarizing ourselves with this case, as we focused all the time on the motherboard. Now, the motherboard that I picked up, I was able to get $50 off. So normally a $175 motherboard, I picked it up for $125 as an Amazon return, knowing that it's coming from Amazon warehouse, so that if there's any problems with it, it's hassle-free, no-cost return for 30 days. The only problem I found with it is we were missing a little standoff and screw for the secondary NVMe drive, which we're not using. But I always like to make sure when I'm building these machines, I build them for customers. And even though this machine does not have a customer yet, one day it will. And I don't want to shortchange my customers in any way, including missing standoffs or screws that they may never realize throughout the entire ownership of the PC. But when that day comes and they go to install a second NVMe, if that day comes, you know who they're going to call. So I would rather just nip that in the bud now. And the question was, how are we going to get that missing standoff and screw? Well, a quick search on Amazon reveals you can buy all kinds of little parts and accessories for all different kinds of things that are sold. So you don't necessarily need to go to eBay or need to contact the manufacturer. Start looking at Amazon now, because not only did I find what are supposed to be the matching screws for $5, and I got 8 of them. I only need 1, so that leaves me a bunch of spares. I also found numerous other sellers also selling standoffs and screws. Sometimes, kits of 40, depending on how many you need. Some advertising for specific board manufacturers like Asus, MSI, ASRock, Gigabyte. But they all don't necessarily use the same standoff and screws from one model of motherboard to another. It's maddening that they haven't defined a standard for this. So it's really important when you're getting a motherboard that you get the right standoff and screw for the NVMe drive. And ideally, that comes with the board when you bought it brand new. But for a $25 savings, if that's the only problem is a little standoff and screw that may never be used in the entire life of the board, I'm not sending the board back for that. I could contact MSI support and ask them, explain the situation. It's a very inexpensive part. They might just, in the spirit of customer service, send it to me. But then I'd be at their beck and call with regards to whenever they decide to get around to mailing it to me. So if I want to get this job done within my control, right, to be able to say I want to do this on Friday and be done with it, then I just go and spend the $5 on Amazon. And even these have a 30-day free return if they're the wrong ones, because, and this is the state of the industry, MSI may yet have a different size standoff and screw they use on this board. We're going to find that out right now, because the first thing I want to do before I forget, and the whole point of this exercise, is to replace that standoff and screw with what I've purchased here to verify that these are the right ones. Now, with this little kit, they've given us 2 different size standoffs, which include screws. What that tells you is MSI has at least 2 different heights of standoffs they use, depending on which motherboard you've got, but they don't specify which board they're for. They just go, hey, MSI uses these, but these may not be the only ones MSI uses. So it's kind of hairy. When you decide to buy a used or returned product from Amazon, you need to understand that that product may not come complete. People will buy stuff and then return it without returning everything that was in the box. And, in my opinion, Amazon should charge them for that or kick the return back. You didn't include the instructions that were in there. You didn't include the screws or the cables or the wires. It should be kicked back and your return should be denied. You return the whole thing the way you got it, or you don't get a refund. But I don't run Amazon. And so Amazon is taking back things that are missing components. And then what they'll do is they'll say, look, if you want to save some money, you can buy these returned items, but read the fine print. Some things may be missing from the box. They don't know what, and they don't know if anything's missing or not. They're just saying, if you're going to buy this from us, It may not be complete. Regardless, you still have 30 days to return it for any reason at no cost to you if it's coming from Amazon's warehouse. If you're not prepared to handle that, stay away from used products on Amazon. If you are prepared and you're like, okay, I'm technically competent, I want to save a few bucks, and it might actually be kind of fun to, see the challenge of what's in the mystery box. Well, as far as the mystery box goes, is it going to have everything I need? Is it going to have everything it came with? A lot of times they do. Will it be missing things? Oftentimes screws are missing. Sometimes cables that belong to something else were thrown in the box when the person who bought it returned it and they don't know what they're doing and they don't have any recollection of what came in the box. So sometimes you get power supply cables that have nothing to do with the motherboard and will not be compatible with your power supply. And then you have to decide, do I throw this cable away? Do I risk plugging it into some random power supply and blowing up a computer? Do I return the item? For me, I just throw the cable away. If I'm buying a used power supply or returned power supply, I'm counting the cables. If it's missing a cable, it's going back to Amazon. That's unacceptable. But if it's missing mounting screws, I've got tons of those. I don't care. I'll keep the power supply. Also, what's the discount on the product? In this case, it saved us $25. That's decent. If this was only $10 cheaper, it's not worth the hassle to, in my opinion, to go through all this when I could just buy a brand new one and everything is untouched and unmolested in the box the way the manufacturer intended. It'd be far less likely for a return. And if I'm on a timeline and I got to get it done, I don't have time to be messing around with this. So it's really a judgment call, but I want you to be prepared. So if you decide to make that decision, understand the additional risk. And by that, I mean additional trouble that you might have to figure out on your own and or send it back and get it replaced and pay the extra $25 for a brand new one, thereby delaying what you were trying to build by a week or more as you're waiting for a return and waiting for a new order to come in. And at least Amazon customer service is easy to work with. But again, if you're anxious to build your machine, don't go around buying used parts. If you're not an experienced technician and you don't have spare parts and you don't know what's missing out of the box, stop buying used parts because you want to save $25. You're going to end up spending way more than that, and you're going to delay your build. So when I'm telling you about these used components, I do so as a working computer technician who identifies what's in the box. You can watch my videos, watch unboxings, and see what comes in the boxes just to compare yours. You can also go to the Amazon website and identify what's included in the box through the documentation. You can do your research that way. If you don't want to have to do all that additional legwork of double checking that everything's in the box, buy a sealed, never opened box. But also, don't get a discount. So you're paying one way or the other. Now for me, because the system has no customer, not currently, the build was really about the Lian Li 207 digital case. I was really excited to build in it, and I didn't have anything to put in there. So I picked up a brand new 14500 CPU that includes the cooler. We're not adding any additional cooler because it's a waste of money, and it's all psychological nonsense that's being sold in bulk online, and people are snatching it up. It's completely unnecessary. When your CPU comes with a cooler, that is the cooler the manufacturer and teams of engineers have worked tirelessly to determine what is required for that. And if that's not good enough for you, I would love to see you design one. I would love to see you design one. And then I'd also like to see how that works out. Now, there are plenty of other third-party coolers you can buy if you have extra money burning a hole in your pocket and you're absolutely convinced that all the stuff you're being told is true and you want to spend your money and do the extra work. You go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you, as a business, I cannot operate my business selling people snake oil. And if you're convinced it's not snake oil, then go buy it. I'm not selling it, all right? And I'm not buying it. If I'm putting a bigger cooler on, I'm usually doing that because the CPU did not come with a cooler, right? I got a K processor or something like that. Or I'm looking for a certain aesthetic. So like a liquid cooler, with a K processor may give me the RGB look and screen that I'm willing to pay more for in order to achieve a certain look. Just as if you want to order a Tesla and you don't want white or black, I think it's another $1,000 to get it in red. It doesn't do anything for the car. The car's not going to run any cooler. It's not going to run any faster. But that paint color is $1,000 more. I think it's $1,000. It might be $2,000 just to change the paint color. Now, I can't speak for you. You might think that's a bargain all day long. I think that's the biggest ripoff in the world, and I don't care what their excuse is about, oh, it's harder to apply or the paint costs more money. You're out of your mind. The car's not that big. It doesn't take that many gallons of paint, and the application isn't really that much different. So it's all lines, right? And the fact that you guys will figuratively and literally buy that line, I just go around the world shaking my head. I cannot run a business that way. I wouldn't do that to my customers. I wouldn't tell my customer, if you want this case in red, it's an extra $500. How many customers do you think I could do that to? And not only that, how would I sleep at night? So I practice what I preach, and I'm giving you a perspective from running a business, the things I'm looking at to offer the best value and the best practicality for the dollar. Now, if a customer approaches me and says, look, I don't care what it costs, I want it to have a certain look, and now I'm building more of an art project than a computer, I may not be the best guy for that. I might not, depends on the extent of the art. I don't consider myself an artist in that way. And let's face it, we've seen some computers that are genuinely pieces of art that should be in museums. You could do that to a lawnmower too. You know, you could make a lawnmower look really, really sexy. I don't know how that helps you cutting the lawn, but I can see how you could spend a lot of time and money on fancying it up. So I always try to keep things well grounded here and well practical, and explain to you why I do what I do, with the hopes that you'll understand the logic of it. You don't have to agree with it, but you could say, oh, I get that. I personally find, this is you, by the way, you could say, I personally find spending an outrageous amount of money for an unnecessary cooler is totally worth it because I believe in it. I can't help what you believe. Okay, so I'm not here to tell you what your beliefs are right or wrong. I'm simply here, once again, to run a business, to offer my customers value, to not sell them things they don't need, to try and keep their price as low as possible. But at the same time, I need to stay in business, because if I go out of business because of one customer, then I'm doing a disservice to all my other customers. So I hope you'll find a unique perspective here on this channel that you don't normally get from most YouTube channels on computers, which is practicality, responsibility at scale when you have to answer to other people who are paying you. That holds very different perspectives when somebody is going to come back to you for everything that they think you did wrong, and they paid you, and there's going to be legal consequences if you don't satisfy them. In fact, even if you do satisfy them, they still may remain unsatisfied for having to point it out to you because they thought they were paying a professional. And if they were going to have to point it out to you, they might as well have done it themselves. So they'll take all their future business somewhere else, regardless if you fix it or not. So this is something you just don't ordinarily get the perspective of on most common YouTube tech channels. And that's why I do it. It's to sort of counterbalance the bulk of the enthusiast, I do what I want attitude, and I have unlimited money, and I don't have to answer to anybody but myself. If I could do that, I don't know, I would have a hard time justifying why I'm making videos, quite frankly. There's enough of that why I add to it. So in any event, I'm really excited to look at the Lian Li, the Digital 207. As I mentioned, it's a really good price. I'm very surprised at how inexpensive Lian Li's made this case. If I bring up the Amazon page for it here, you'll see it's only $110, and it's got a little 6-inch, whoops, why did that do that? It's only got a, it's got a 6-inch screen down at the bottom that's included. And they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 fans pre-installed in this case. So, you know, we've certainly seen more expensive cases that didn't include any fans. there's two fans in the front and then there's two fans down below. If you don't have if you don't have a discrete graphics card installed, you don't need to use these two fans on the bottom. You can if you want to. The obsession that people on the internet and the tech community have with heat does not match reality. They might believe in Bigfoot and the flying spaghetti monster. All I care about is doing what's necessary, and anything beyond that is adding extra cost and complexity along with extra maintenance that I don't want to take on as a business, and I don't want to force upon my customers. Now, if you wish to buy tools you don't need at higher prices than you need to pay that don't accomplish anything you need to do, I'm not telling you not to. I want to reiterate, you want to go and pay for things that you don't need because you like the idea and you believe in it. I'm not here to tell you not to. I'm here to tell you what I do, not what you do, and the reasoning behind it. Because again, if you're sincerely wondering what goes through a company like Dell or HP when they're doing their computer designs, it's all about the ability to make something reliable, fast, inexpensive, and competent. And I'm trying to do a better quality above that, but at a lower price. So you kind of have your mass-produced stuff, which is fine. It's totally fine. You know, there's about, I want to say 250, somewhere around 260 million computers sold last year in 2024. And about 10% of that is sold by Dell, and we're talking worldwide. Another 10% is probably HP, and another 10% is probably Lenovo. They're pretty well, Dell and HP are neck and neck. And the vast majority of people are buying those brands when it comes to computers. They're not watching YouTube videos and building it themselves. And the vast majority of people never have to upgrade their computer in any way, shape, or form. And vast majority of people never require a repair. Never, ever. Not in the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. Some people do, a small percentage, but the vast majority never upgrade, never need a better cooler, never have overheating. They actually, and I know this is a strange concept for some of you, they buy the computer and they use it as a computer. That's it, just like anything else you buy. And when you operate the machine in the way it was intended to be used, then it cools the way it's intended to cool. And it's only when you try to outsmart the engineers that you open the possibility of, you know, spending money you didn't need to spend, having frustrations or damage that you might cause that other people wouldn't suffer from, and end up with ongoing computer frustrations. And almost every time, the kind of technical mindset that does that will almost always blame the computer. I'll never buy another Dell. I'll never, you know, and it's them. They're the ones who cause the problem. And you can't tell them that. I mean, God forbid you tell them, look, you screwed this up. No, because I guarantee you, they're not coming back to you ever again. So we're living in a world where people want to hear what they want to hear. And if they don't hear it from you, they'll go somewhere else. And you know, look, for me in my business, luckily I'm in a place where I encourage them to go somewhere else because I don't want those kind of customers. And the customers that appreciate what I do understand there's too many other people out there selling beliefs, and it's expensive rather than selling results. So that's the attitude I take in my business, and I think that's why I've been able to keep the doors open as long as I have. Through thick and thin, the business has never shut down in over 30 years. So I feel like I must be doing something right. At least it works for me and my clients. And for the clients I don't have, well, clearly didn't work for them, but I also didn't need them any more than they needed me. So everybody's happy, right? So find what it is. If you require that echo chamber and you require that other people to agree with you, as long as you're spending your money, it's really easy to find people to say yes to whatever you have to say. But when it comes to just straight up honesty, regardless of the money, for me anyway, the facts don't change. I don't adjust the answers based on the potential income. And I guess that makes me a terrible salesman. So I just want to give you that perspective here, because I think if you watch a lot of other tech enthusiast channels, there's a money is no object, and I hold no accountability to anybody paying me. I'm just doing this for me. And that's great, but understand that's what that is versus what this is. They're two very different things. One is not necessarily better than the other. That's for you to decide, not for me to decide. All right, let's take a look in the chat and say hello to everybody. Let me jump over here and let's see, what do we have? Scrolling right up to the top here. Eddie Casanova says hello. There's Ron Barnish. The Rock Goose and Thomas MacT say hello. Essential Working Too Hard says hello. And by the way, for all my members in the chat, this is not a message for you. I'm not talking really to any of you. I'm talking to the viewers, the regular viewers who will watch this video. They might be watching it live. Most viewers will watch it in the course of the next week. And half of those viewers have never seen me before. So if you feel like, you know, we've heard all this before, well, I appreciate the fact that you've come back and that you're loyal and you appreciate what I'm doing. But please also understand that I'm being discovered every single day with the YouTube algorithm, introducing my videos to a worldwide audience for the very first time. And if you think that those people are going to go back and look at my previous content to figure out who I am and why I'm doing this, most of them, 99% or more, will not do that. It must be spoon-fed to them right out of the gate, or they will never, ever go seeking it. So I apologize for the constant repetition, but until when 90% or 80% of my audience is returning, then we don't have to do that anymore. But it's almost like radio. Every time we come back from a commercial break, I got to reintroduce who I am, what the show is, who I'm interviewing, and before the break, what we were talking about, because people are always tuning in, you know, all throughout a live show. So anyway, that's sort of the uniqueness of having a YouTube channel where you get, at least in my case, 50%, half of my views come from people that have never seen me before every day, and that's been going on for years. There's a lot of people on this planet, and hopefully some of them will want to stick around and subscribe, or they'll hit the like button and you know, want to be part of this amazing community. So yeah, I want to make sure the members understand. I know you guys have heard all this before, and it's not everything I'm talking about you've already heard, and it is not intended for you guys. All right, so I appreciate you being patient with me and considerate of you know, other people that may be future members here once they understand what it is we're doing. Let's see, the Rock Goose is a new member. Right on. Well, thanks for joining us, Rock Goose. Of course, Mara's in the chat room, and there's also Ben Laird joining us from Scotland. Mark Leibowitz joins us from Chicago. David Graham says hello. There's Barry Klein and Mark Gaines. Frank Jimmy and Mortant say hello. There's our friend Buster with a 10-pound super chat. He says, hello, Carey and Marlena and everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland. The temperature in Edinburgh, 58 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 14.4 degrees Celsius. So jealous right now. So hot here. All right, let's see. Richard DeFries says, hello from Ireland. Charlie Purdy with a $20 super chat. Thank you, Charlie. He says, hello, Carey and Mara and everyone in the chat. Mark Baggett, 3D Everything. Dazzle555. And Lou Greenia joining us here in the chat today. Alan Lindos with $7.77 says hello and happy Friday. Guess you have chat inactivated for me, so here is my fee. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do about that. The chat is open to members only because the state of society is such that we end up doing a lot of babysitting for unsupervised, immature people. So we end up, at a certain point in time, I just have enough of free babysitting. Now, if their guardians want to pay me to babysit them and the pay is worth it, then I'll tolerate them in the chat. But it comes and goes in waves. We have times where the free members watching these videos, the free viewers watching the videos, are very polite and offer consideration and respect, even a modicum of respect. And it's great. There's nothing better. And then there gets to be sort of a wave of, well, I'm just going to say babysitting. And I'm doing this essentially for them for free. Would you babysit somebody else's children for free? And they're rambunctious children. So this is why, unfortunately, the free viewers, they can still watch the live content for free, but they will not have I will not permit them the courtesy to interact with me because they're part of a group that contains restless, immature, sad and bored people that just want to take out they want everybody else to feel the way they do, apparently. If I'm sad and miserable, then you have to be sad and miserable too. I don't know who they are, and I don't know why they think I'm going to permit that. Unfortunately, there is some collateral damage with that, right? Most of the free viewers are perfectly fine and respectful and have proper decorum, as one would expect in a normal society where otherwise you'd get punched in the face. But at least in the world I grew up. But since we can't physically restrain them, I have to virtually restrain them. And they don't seem to be capable of restraining themselves, hence the babysitting. And I do apologize for non-members who have been respectful, who are no longer able to interact with me. However, unless you know a way to change the behavior of the entitlement and the childish behavior, I don't know the answer either. This is the only way I know to deal with it. Alternately, we could just make the videos members only and shut the free videos down entirely. And that's on the table too, just to make sure that the people that we're making the content for are the people who appreciate it. And then the people who feel entitled to it get nothing, and there's no recourse for them whatsoever. There's nothing. They can no longer bother us. They can no longer distract or disrupt, and they would no longer know when any new videos are ever posted. From their perspective, the channel would look like there's no new content. Only would they become members would they see all the new content. That's pretty extreme, and I don't want to have to do it. However, it is an option should things get worse. If this isn't enough to keep them at bay, then we just completely restrict the content only to members and just shut it down as far as the free videos go. I don't want to do that. I feel like it's punishing people who never did anything wrong, but they are part of a group of viewers that are the problem. And until they separate themselves out of that group by becoming a member or separating themselves somehow so we can identify who they are and trust them to let them in, I don't know what else to do. So just so you know, I do hope that people won't shoot themselves in the foot and will exercise some impulse control if they want to continue watching videos for free. And if they can't be respectful, all they have to do is say nothing. It is the lowest bar possible. And if they can't reach the lowest bar, they're not offering us anything in value to have them here. So there's no loss from our perspective. They're not a part of the community. And if what they're trying to do is destroy the community, why would we open the community up to people who want to destroy it? You see where I'm coming from? So we're working on that. We're just trying some other things here in the hopes that at least other viewers can watch the channel. If they don't support us with the memberships, they can still enjoy the free content. The next step is the free content goes away entirely and only members watch the content. That's a step, again, I don't want to take, but I don't know what choice I'll have after that. So just so you know. And we'll keep going through the chat here and saying hello to everybody. Mike's unboxing reviews and how to. He says, it's going to be interesting to see how Carey gets on with this case. I've been using mine a week or two now, and it has some quirks, but overall it's a great case. I appreciate the heads up, Mike. I did not really watch any videos about working on this case, so whatever quirks it's got, they're going to be new to me. You're going to see my reaction genuinely. Let me see here. Leslie Cabin says hello. Mike's Unboxing says, with the prices of Thermaltake coolers, it's cheap and easy to get lower temps and less noise than the stock offerings. You know, again, I just cannot get behind this obsession with, there's a level of intolerance that seems to exist among technical people, a level of technical minutia with things that, in my opinion, don't really matter. It's like you just cleaned up a garbage dump and you found 3 little crumbs and you're upset that it's not 100% shiny, polished, and perfect. At scale, I simply can't do that at scale. I can't put that much time and money into a build because I'll have customers that are going to compare my prices and say, well, how come you're so much more? And that's a tough thing to sell. The biggest complaint, I'd say, with regards to noise these days isn't really about the fans. It's mostly about mechanical hard drive chatter. So anytime we see a drive over 16 terabytes, especially like in a NAS, it gets really clunky and chattery. And I've had customers say, what can I do about it? And there's nothing. Like, you get yourself a 20 terabyte, 24 terabyte drive, and then you have 4 of them in a NAS, you're going to be hearing it. Chugga, 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 click, 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 click. They're louder than I recall drives ever being. Yet at 8 terabytes and below, they're almost silent. And my solution for that, of course, is put the NAS in another room where you don't hear it. Move the computer away from your ear, like it shouldn't be so loud. Take out all the fans you've got that you don't need. I see so many people loading up so many fans. Of course it's going to add more noise. It also acts as a vacuum cleaner. It brings in more dust and debris. I see an obsession with negative versus positive airflow. I'm sorry, I'm not jumping on that bandwagon. It's all theoretical. None of it is actually reproducible as to make any real world difference, unless you're doing something really extreme, in which case, you know, my videos aren't for extremists, they're for regular people. So I encourage anybody who doesn't believe me to start disconnecting fans in your case. And I would encourage anybody that suggests lower temperatures are better to actually do the measurement, because as long as your components in your system overall is running within its operational specs, it doesn't matter if it's running 85 degrees or if it's running at 65 degrees. It's running exactly the same. But if it's running right up at the limit, right, and it's doing that all the time, now there's a concern about premature degradation of the components, although most people won't own the components long enough. Nonetheless, that would imply to me something about your system is built incorrectly. We're using the stock cooler on this, and I'm not quite sure where all of this sort of blanket statement comes from that all stock coolers are loud, or what loud is, or how tolerant people are to any sort of noise. So there's so many variables here, but I haven't had a customer complain about a loud computer since just before the pandemic. I would guess 2017. And a lot of times the fan curve, the way that the BIOS has been set up, is not correct also. But again, if you take out, if you have at least one fan in the front, if you have a graphics card. If you don't have a graphics card, you don't need any fan in the front unless it's just there for looks. One fan in the back or the top, plus the fan on the cooler and the fan in the power supply. That's more than enough fans. You are covered. And if you don't believe me, prove me wrong. Disconnect your fans and measure your temps. Your room temperature is constantly changing, so you've got to allow for a 3-degree variable, plus or minus 3 degrees. If your system is running at 55 degrees Celsius, and you've unplugged your fans and now you measure it and they're running at 57, it's basically the same. Only now you're bringing in less dust and debris, your power supply is not working as hard, your fan motors aren't getting hot, you're not drawing as much power, you're more efficient, and the system performance, security, none of that's been affected. And again, we can talk, but I prove it, and I'll prove it every single day, all the time. If you want to add the fans because it makes you feel good or you like the way it looks, that's a different thing than what I'm talking about. I'm talking about what's actually needed. And these things that the internet is obsessed with, the heat, is so bizarre to me because it's pretty rare we deal with a heat issue. And the last few heat issues I had to deal with were caused by unnecessary liquid coolers that failed. And if the customer had never put a liquid cooler in it, they never would have had the failure. So whatever reasons they spent the money and went through the hassle of the liquid cooler caused the very problem they were trying to avoid. I see this all the time with uninterruptible power supplies where customers will, hey, I want to put it on a UPS on the system. And I go, look, that battery in that UPS is going to need to be changed out about every 4 years, whether you use it or you don't. Okay, so what happens? I get a call. My system just shut off on me for no apparent reason. I turn it back on and it shuts back off again. We need you to come over to the business and look at it. What do you think the problem is? It's the UPS. So you unplug the system from the UPS, plug it straight in the wall, it works fine. Well, how old is the UPS? I don't know. I start looking through my receipts and I go, oh, we put this in 6 years ago. I told you these need to be replaced every 4 years. Yeah, but we've never used it. We've never lost power. Okay, it doesn't matter. How much is the battery? Well, the battery is going to cost you almost as much as a brand new one, and you got to figure out a way to dispose the battery, properly. You can't just throw it in the trash. So is it worth it? It's not a plug and play, set it and forget it situation. It's an ongoing, never-ending expense for likely a product that isn't going to return back to you and value what you spent on it, except you're buying an idea, you're buying a concept. Now, there are situations where UPSs are absolutely required, something like a server that a whole company is depending on, but every single workstation doesn't need one. And if the customer wants to put them in, I'll put them in, but now I label the date on them when they're activated and then when they're installed. And then I set a calendar reminder in 4 years to tell that customer we need to replace them or remove them. Those are your two options. If the customer doesn't want to do either one, I just let them know that any sort of repair work as a result of you not replacing or having the batteries replaced on the UPSs will not be included in your retainer, and it will be separately billed at the regular hourly rate, which is more money than the UPS cost. I got to mess around with this because it's frustrating for me. It's like somebody buys a gun to protect themselves even though they've never been threatened and they've never needed the gun, and then they end up shooting themselves with it accidentally when they would have been better off just not having it. They're going to save the money, save the pain and the heartache for something they never ever needed, and it was solely built on their imagination and manipulation from the media where they think, oh, I better get a gun. But that's just the sense of practicality that I have. Let's do something that has a measurable difference in performance, reliability, or security, or let's not do it. So, but I appreciate where Mike's coming from, and I appreciate that he may have a different perspective on where he finds value, and in fact, he may have a different customer set that also agrees with that. Mine, like I said, my customers appreciate the value that I'm not selling them things they don't need, that I don't deem that they need. And those customers who disagree with me will take their business somewhere else. So it's kind of like we're going to attract back, you know, the very kind of thing that we're that we believe the value that we're selling aligns with the value of the customer. And if those values don't align, it doesn't mean anybody's right or wrong. It just means that, you know, we're not ideally suited to provide the services for that customer. And so I would rather send the customer away than have them upset with me or me be upset with them for what I feel is, you know, chasing beliefs instead of, you know, chasing measurable, reasonable things that we can identify and correct to justify time and effort. Some people are very intolerant, and, you know, if they pay me well enough, I'm good with it. But that kind of goes against the whole thing about trying to be practical and trying to make sure that I'm offering really good, solid value. Ideally, one and done. Ideally, get it done right the first time, and I don't need to hear back from that client unless they did something to it or they need another one. But hopefully there's no complaints about anything for the entire length of ownership. And my goal is it should be everybody's goal, to get it right the first time. So that's why the builds often take a little bit longer. I want to just check and double check, and I'll still make a mistake time to time. And I get really mad at myself when I do. But if I can catch it before it goes out to the customer, I'm also real happy I noticed it, so the customer never has to deal with it, and the customer never knows. That's the idea. I want to thank our friends over at ORICO who sent us the RAM we're using on today's build. This is their new Raceline series DDR5, very aggressively priced. It's not an advertisement. They've sent us the RAM just to evaluate it. It's RAM. It works like RAM. It looks good. It's a good value. Anything more than that, you know, there are high-speed RAM, much higher speed RAM for much higher dollar that offer almost zero performance difference beyond benchmarking. And if that's worth it to you, you know, I'm not telling you not to buy it. I can't see wasting my money to get so little back in return for it. So I think that, you know, one of the things that really interested me about the ORICO RAM was just how much more aggressively priced, as well as its attractiveness, right? That does play a role, especially when you've got a glass panel. And the speed is nothing to shake a stick at. I think it's 6,000. I probably won't go that high anyway. So anyway, it's decide for yourself. Check out the reviews. It's a brand new product from them. And know that you have options when you're purchasing RAM. You don't have to buy it from certain manufacturers. There's a lot of other really good RAM out there from lesser known manufacturers that don't charge you that brand name tax. So you can get a lot more value for the money. You're seeing a theme here, right? Let's see, who else do we have in our chat? Peter, joining us from the Netherlands, says hello. Mark Liebowitz said the SL410 never seemed loud when it was my daily driver laptop, but 15 years worth of better technology later, now it seems loud. Well, that's true. Our perspectives can change, for sure. Jose Lopez with a $1 super chat. Thank you, Jose. I still got to get Mike's unboxing here on the show, don't you think? Tell him in the chat. Mike's unboxing. You need to join Carey on a show. Barry Klein with a $10 super chat says, I'm trying to think of a use for that front panel screen. I already used 4 monitors. Surely I could figure out something for a 5th. Colin Hunt with a £5 super chat. Thank you, Colin. And Peter VZ, again, a $6 super chat, joining us from the Netherlands. Thank you, Peter. And Colin Hunt renews his membership, now a member for 36 months. Mike's Unboxing said, what about subscriber-only chat? You know, I did see that option, and we could turn it on to see what happens. The problem is, it doesn't cost anything to subscribe, so if somebody wants to come in here and harass me, they don't mind hitting the subscribe button. when they have to pay something to harass me, they never do. Never, not once has anybody paid to harass me. So all I'm saying is, you know, the guy you throw the tomatoes at the fair, you don't do that for free. You pay a couple bucks, they give you some tomatoes, and you get to throw the tomatoes at the guy. If you don't pay the couple bucks, they don't give you the tomatoes, you don't get to throw the tomatoes for free. That's effectively what this has become. Like a dunk tank. You don't get to dunk me for free. If you want to dunk, you got to buy the little bean bags, and you get so many throws for $1 or whatever it is. Okay, that's a fair deal. So because a subscription is free, it doesn't really stop anybody who wants to harass. Because if they had money, they'd probably have a job. And if they had a job, well, I don't want to say it that way because that would be insulting all of you. The issue is such that the subscriber mode doesn't prevent or separate out my good viewers from the bad ones. And the only way that I know for sure that I've come up with is to just leave it with memberships. However, I'm still open to other ideas. There's got to be another way. I just feel like this is on YouTube to start holding viewers accountable for the things they do on the platform so that it can be punishable by banning an IP or banning user accounts and requiring some form of positive identification to identify that they're more than 13 years old with some sort of state ID for every account. That way they can't create multiple accounts without now having fake IDs, et cetera, et cetera. It doesn't eliminate the problem, but it significantly will reduce the amount of abuse that's happening online, at least here on YouTube, because it's so easy. The minute you put some deterrents in, again, it's not an absolute solution, but it absolutely would make a huge difference in how effective people can be with creating multiple accounts. It would put a severe dent in that, and be more work than they're willing to put in. So yeah, I feel like that YouTube has to do that. I can't, nothing I can do about it. Mike's Unboxing says, we use subscriber-only chat in our streams, and it seems to block all the bots and most of the dipsticks. Well, I'll tell you what, just because you suggested it, let's give it a shot. Mara? We'll see if I can get Mara's attention. We'll see if we can get Mara to turn on subscriber-only chat, and we'll give it a run. We can always turn it back off. I hope I don't have to turn it off. The more the merrier in the chat room, so long as we're not having unnecessary and random attacks. I would love to have everybody in here. It's just, you know, separating out the children. All right, so Mara says she's going to turn that on for us, so we'll turn that on.
You can set the amount of time for how long it I'm going to do it way longer than...
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that. Yeah, you can set how long somebody's got to be subscribed.
Correct.
Hey, Mike's Unboxing, what's the period of time that, if you know off the top of your head, that you're using? How long must somebody be subscribed before they can chat?
I'm thinking 30 days. But...
That's a long time. A lot of, yeah, well, the problem people, though, they're going to be spontaneous. They're not going to plan ahead. Luke Greenia says, Carey, I got a little problem with that Asus BT10. It was way too easy to set up, and the thing is working way too well. I did have to set it up the way you do. I just want to say thank you. I can handle those kind of problems all day.
All right, Luke.
Nice.
Good job.
You looking for a job? Frankie B joins us and says, hello. Welcome in, Frankie.
So we'll see what Mike says.
Mike says 5 minutes.
He says, how long?
5 minutes.
Only 5 minutes?
Yeah. I'd go 30 minutes.
Yeah, see, that to me makes more sense.
30 minutes or... I'd set it for, let's cut the difference. Let's say 15, 20 minutes. And then if they come in as troublemakers, just block them and they'll have to create a new account.
Fair enough.
Let's try that.
Okay.
Craig Wilson renews membership, now member for 3 months, says hello, welcome in. Oh, I was going to show you, when I go to Amazon, I'm going to show you how I find these parts that I need. Amazon's been just fantastic with regards to locating, you know, not only the cases and power supplies and things that I buy, where I used to just buy from Newegg all the time. Now I almost never buy from them. It's pretty rare. But now even the little screws and things I used to go to eBay to buy, because eBay's gotten terrible. Not that eBay was ever great, but but now Amazon is got these other accessory items. So if something's missing, or lost, it's super easy now in most cases to find a replacement. So I'm going to give you a live example of that right now. Let's just jump over to Amazon. And I've got an MSI board. MSI, we've got a B760, I think is what this is. And we need M2 screws and standoff. And look at this, is 500 pieces for Asus MSI Gigabyte. I mean, you just need one. Okay. So not only am I getting choices, I'm getting multiple choices. You see all the different shapes and sizes here, and there's more than what's in this kit. Understand that you could look at all these different ones here. Well, there's 6 different ones and 3, you know, there's 3 of each is what it appears. And as we scroll through, this is the one I purchased right here. It says M.2 SSD mounting screw kit for MSI motherboards. It's 8 pieces. So the top 4 have a short stubby standoff, and the bottom 4 have a longer standoff. Will either one of those standoffs be what we need for this MSI board? Don't assume that it's for all MSI boards. It is for MSI boards, but it doesn't say it's for all MSI boards. So a little bit of research if you wanted to, you know, do some Googling and figure out what the heck size standoff and screw that board has. It's probably on the manufacturer's documentation. I can't be bothered. I think it's probably going to be okay. But let's find out now, live and on camera, if I just wasted $5. I will always be able to use these, and I could return them if it's worth the price of my time and gas for my $5. All right. Let's see if I can. I'm definitely going to need my glasses for this one. These are super tiny. Just dump all that out. Oh, good. We have instructions on how to use a screw. How does that turn? How does that work? Oh, you turn it. I thought it was a rivet. Probably going to need the super glasses for this one. Let's take a look here. And let me take a look on this board. Can we zoom in on that? Let's see. Yeah, good. So where I'm trying to go, again, we have a second M.2 here that I have no intention of ever using, but once it's sold to a customer, because it has that slot, that is a future potential support call I don't want to take. So I can nip that in the bud now by replacing the M.2 standoff and screw, or just placing it in. So is it the short one? That one is going in. Now here's the question. Is the height between here and here going to leave me, and this is a little detail, this will do the job and we're good. But if it's the exact right one, then I can grab an NVMe drive, which, let me find a spare one here, and so I can plug that in and just verify that the drive is flat, that it's not angled. If it's angled, it's the wrong size standoff. If the standoff doesn't screw down into the board, it's the wrong thread standoff. So you've got thread to worry about, thread length to worry about, standoff height to worry about. Those are 3 variables that will change, and often do change, between motherboard manufacturers, and even within the same motherboard manufacturer between different models of motherboards. So bear with me for just a second. Let me just grab a flash drive, an NVMe drive here. And let's just take a quick look at this together and identify if that standoff is too tall, too short, or just right. The princess and the pea. Let's see. I'd say that's 100% right. I see no angle up or down. And again, it would work if it's angled. It's just not the best fit into the socket. And I want to do it right. I don't want to do it like somebody working out of their, weekend warrior kind of thing. And what I'll do is that's a standard 5mm socket, the same that we use on motherboard standoffs. So my ratcheting 5mm tool will work perfectly to just tighten this down a bit. Don't over tighten. You don't want to strip that out or break the hex head off of there. And then these screws, we've got two different size screws. We've got the bigger screw and the smaller screw. And I have to assume that the smaller screw is for the smaller standoff and the bigger screw is for the bigger standoff. I think that's how it works. So because I use these, which one's the bigger standoff? I think the threads. I think one's a coarse thread standoff and one's a fine thread. And I think, you know what? I'm not even sure what I think anymore because these screws are also fine threaded. Yeah, so I'm guessing, oh, you can just tell by looking at the end. That's a much narrower opening than the one I used. It's much wider. If I bring this up to the camera, I'll show you. So just looking very closely and looking at the detail, you should be able to identify, I'm on the wrong, am I on the wrong feed? Oh, I am on the wrong feed. Okay, we're here. See the difference in the size, the diameter of the hole? And also the standoffs themselves are a different height. I can hold it steady. It'll be pretty obvious, right? I mean, if you grab the wrong screw, it's just not going to go in, or it'll fall in and it won't tighten. So we will need the bigger screw, and I will use just my regular JIS driver. And the reason I'm doing this is the next question that I'll get from the customer at some point, maybe, is I was just trying to add another NVMe drive. Everybody said it was easy. I see where it goes, but where's the screw? So that's why I always leave the screw in the standoff, and I wish motherboard makers simply sold the motherboards with the standoff and screws already in place. Then the odds are when Amazon got the returns that they will be including everything. It'd be less likely that it would be left out of the box. Some manufacturers of boards do that. And again, I've seen some manufacturers of boards do that with some models of boards. There's no consistency, and they don't do it with other models of boards. So I'll grab my JIS, and all I want to do is put a screw in here so that these two things are always together. The customer doesn't have to wonder where the screw is. It doesn't have to be tight. Just snug is all we need. That's the way I would have set this board up if it were brand new and it wasn't missing the standoffs. But it solved the problem for $5, which still makes the savings worthwhile, the $25 savings on buying this board. And on top of that, I now have 7 extras. So if any future MSI, and by the way, doesn't have to be MSI, it's very likely that these same screws will work on an Asus, an ASRock, or a Gigabyte. It just depends on the board and which design the manufacturer used for that generation of board. The only question is, will I be able to find them? You see, I already have some standoff and screws for M.2s. I don't know where they are. And for $5, I'm not even going to bother looking. This just shows up right to my door. And if I don't like it, like I said, I can send it back. These little screwdrivers, I think they're complete trash, and that's where it's going to go, is the garbage can. It's a nice thought that they offer it to you, and maybe for some of you that you'll need it. But it's a very difficult way to work using bad tools. But bad tools, I suppose, are better than no tools. So that takes care of that problem. I'll just set that down there where I'm sure I will be able to find it at some future time should I ever need that again. If I keep buying used boards, that'll be sooner rather than later. Oh, why do I do it to myself? It's for the challenge. For the challenge. All right, so we'll have Mara monitor our chat room, and we've opened it up for subscribers now. And you know, like I said, most of you are very friendly. We are not intentionally punishing non-members. We're just trying to, you know, keep everybody safe. So welcome in. I see very familiar names, very friendly names: Rick Lakes and Luke Walker and Lawrence Pierre. And Alan Lindus, if you're watching, you should be able to jump in now. And again, my apologies for the collateral there. Thank you to Mike's Unboxing for the suggestion, and I hope that this will be a good meet in the middle, you know, with regards to the members only participation versus the general public. Nick Caffrey renews membership, now a member 17 months. He goes, I'm so late, like the white rabbit. Is it a very important date? Now, with the motherboard totally prepped, on the previous Friday show, we, you know, did the RAM, SSD, operating system, BIOS, and then after the show, I did all the updates. I think I activated it. That's the other thing. When you buy a returned motherboard from Amazon, depending on how far the system builder got with it, the activation key stays tied to the motherboard forever. So if they bought a Windows activation key and they activated it on the board and then they return the board, you might find when you install your operating system, it automatically activates, thanks to the impatience of the previous owner that didn't wait until they verified the system was solid before they activated it. There's no time required to activate Windows. You could leave Windows unactivated forever and it will always continue to run. Just certain personalization options are removed and you get a watermark. So what? So these people that just jump right in, they do everything at once, they're impatient, they're super excited, and they're letting it get the best of them, are the ones that will ultimately have the most difficult problems to resolve. And you and I can benefit from that by looking at the return product at Amazon, because sometimes there's only a couple dollars savings. It's not worth it. Other times there's significant savings, significant, sometimes half price. For half price, again, making sure I'm ordering it from Amazon. I got to see who the seller is, because I need that peace of mind that I could return it no differently for free within 30 days if necessary. And I feel like my odds of needing to return a returned product, previously returned product, are much higher than my odds of needing to return a brand new product. So I need that peace of mind before I pull the trigger, or the savings is not worth the risk for me. Nick Caffrey with a 15 euro super chat said, life has intervened in my existence, not convenient. It intervened? In what way? Sounds like you're doing okay. Paul Veacher with $9.99 in super chat. Thank you, Paul. Rick Lakes with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Rick. Do us a favor, Rick, and reach out to us in an email. I have an idea I want to share with you, but we'll discuss it privately. And let's get back to the build here. So with all of that out of the way, I suppose we could do some work. I've got the documentation here for this case, which I'm going to just set right over there. Case with quirks, says Mike's Unboxing. Has me a little bit of anxiety, but I'm sure whatever it is, we'll figure it out. Okay, so let me get my regular glasses so I can see what do we have going on back here. Hey, Charles Griffin with a $3 super chat. Thank you, Charles. What do we have? Well, I'm going to start by saying that list looks like it pulls off. We did that before, didn't we? It feels like deja vu. I think we did that already. I see a couple screws up here for something. We've got what appears to be nothing holding this glass panel in. I guess you pull on that. Yeah. Okay. There's your glass panel. Okay. Set that precariously next to my foot where I can kick it and break it. Inside, these are the two fans down here that I'm telling you, they're not needed unless you want to blow cool air over this area. What would be sitting over this area? A graphics card. I'm not putting a graphics card in. Those fans don't need to be turned on. If you want to turn them on, turn them on. You want to do the extra cabling work, and now you want to have 4 fans that can go bad, run them. You're not going to see them running, so it's not like it's an eyesore to say, oh, I think my fans are broken, if you don't see the fans. But we'll take a look, and maybe there's a simple fan controller that powers them all, in which case it's not additional cable management. But if you're especially averse to noise, you definitely want to reduce your number of fans, even if they're quiet. They won't always be. So again, if we're building this for longevity, if we're not always opening it up and trying to modify it every other week, you want to seal it up and just enjoy it for as long as possible, then we don't want anything absolutely unnecessary. Or if it's absolutely necessary, we want it. If it's not necessary, then we don't have to have it. Just because it's there doesn't mean you have to use it. I know a lot of you, this goes against your grain. But I've got the fan. So what? Exercise a little self-control. All right, the other panel, I'm going to guess that comes off the same way, but it's a full-length panel. Yes, yep. Yeah, it's a bit longer because of the power supply shroud. See, that glass only goes from here to here. And on this side, this goes the complete length top to bottom. So nothing unusual, no quirks yet. Oh, I know they're coming, Mike. Mike says both sets of fans only use 1 PWM plug each. Okay. I don't know how many PWM headers we've got on this board, but it looks like I'm seeing 5. I'm sure we have enough. I'm just not real keen on adding more dust and noise to the computer. But again, if it's already sort of pre-wired and ready to go, it's a judgment call. It won't benefit us to have them plugged in and turned on. All it will do, and I want to be clear on this, is it will increase the likelihood of dealing with a failed fan at some point in the future. If I only have 1 fan, then I can only have 1 fan potentially fail. If I have 4 fans, then I have quadrupled the statistical likelihood that I will suffer a fan failure sooner than anybody else. 4 times greater to deal with that much sooner. I see some cable loops here. I like this. Ooh, I like this a lot. Because of the CPU 12-volt power cable coming up and then going across, a lot of motherboards, they don't accommodate for that. It's like they've never built a computer before, these case makers. And they don't give any consideration to where the cabling, for all the cabling goes. So this is delightful. I'm glad to see that. What else? Velcro ties. That's going to make cable management real easy. It's one of the things I really liked about the NZXT cases was the built-in cable management, where I'm not spending all this time braiding cables or zip tying cables. This won't require that many zip ties, if any at all, with this kind of design from what I'm seeing so far. Sometimes we deal with really inexpensive cases where all the screws come in little plastic bags. Did I get all the bags? You know, sometimes the bags aren't resealable. I have to cut them open with scissors or tear them open. And of course there's spare screws. What do I put them in? Now I got to go get another bag that's resealable. So what I do is I save resealable bags. I keep them in the drawer here. So anytime that happens, where the manufacturer gives me sealed bags, you know, I can store the screws in. It really bothers me that they're just adding to the landfill, right? So what Lian Li has done is they've done what I see Fantex do, and they've given us this, oh, and that's just in there loose, this organizer. But the organizer itself isn't enough, because you would use and keep this, and this is what we're going to call sarcasm alert. What do you think's inside of here? The screws. Okay, but this case was shipped to me in a box. I've opened the case and removed a box. So this is a box that was in a box that was in a box. And what's inside of the box? It's like Russian nesting dolls. Bags. 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 It's like giving the middle finger to the landfill, you know, to the planet Earth. It's completely unnecessary. I suppose maybe the logic is, what if this were to open in shipping? But they could have sealed it with a piece of tape, something that wouldn't have taken up, you know, use of resources. Not that it's much, but it adds up and it's unnecessary, and you are paying for that. They're not giving it to you for free. That's built into the price of the case. They've also put a spare, what looks like, I don't know what this is. Hold on, this just caught my eye. What is this? Oh, I know what this is for. This is probably how you hook up the screen. It's probably a USB. Yeah, so they've given you a cutout here where you can run this through to the back of the board, like to the back of a USB port on your motherboard. And then that would be an internal USB 2.0 header. But Carey, couldn't you use the internal USB 2 header on the board and skip this and this? Yes, if you have one and it's available. But what if you don't? Backup. Good, I like it. I haven't confirmed that, but I'm guessing that's what that is. All right, this really bothers the heck out of me. So let me just get this organized the way it should have come out of the box. And then that way I can add this to my landfill as soon as possible. Now, if this was made of cornstarch or something that would biodegrade easily, I wouldn't complain so much about it. But to put a bag in a container in a box that's in another box, I just feel like, isn't that thorough? What's happening, Mara?
You have email.
I've got mail.
Yeah.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm just dumping out my Lucky Charms, trying to pick out the prizes. I mean, the marshmallows. That's what this reminds me of.
Get the green clovers.
You get that box of cereal and you pick the good bits out of it. Captain Crunch, you pick out the little red berries and leave all the regular cereal. Well, that's effectively what I'm doing here, is I'm keeping all these screws separated in no particular order, but just keeping them all in the same family of screws, but instead of in bags, using this as it was intended to be used as a separator. And I sure would have appreciated had that been done for me. It also looks like they've given us some Velcro zip ties, a pad for something, maybe the GPU bracket, and some nylon zip ties. Not nearly enough, but it's a nice thought. So again, there's no particular order to where I'm putting the screws other than just keeping them together. And that's why I have eyeballs. Now, I don't know why they couldn't have shipped it this way, but it's really not a big deal unless you have to do 10 of these before the end of the day. And if not, you'll be coming in tomorrow after hours on the weekend to get caught up. That's the difference between work and play. Jobs have to get done. And every little detail that you at home go, well, that's not that big of a deal, I don't know why he's complaining about it, is because you're not seeing that at scale. So I'm not building this at scale, but I do want you to know that I have other systems waiting And the longer it takes me to do things that I don't have to do with other systems, that I have to do for this one, well, it's acceptable because there's a learning curve here for both of us and understanding the differences between these cases. As a business, though, you'd be much better off sticking with one particular case that you're familiar with, that you can build in quickly, and you don't have any learning process. You can crank those systems out so much faster. It also makes support a lot easier when all your customers have the same things. All right, let's get rid of this stuff. I'll just put it down here for now. It's a good place for it. And what do we have in the chat? Mike's Unboxing said, optional if the board doesn't have a USB 2 header. Yeah, that's okay. I think that was a timing issue. Maybe you said that before I did, not just now seeing it. Good, good. That's what I suspected. All right. So far, I don't see any, what did you call it, Mike? He had a word for it. Said it was weird in some ways, right? What do we have up here? These are all our front port umbilicals, USB 3.0. Everything looks normal. Quirks, I think he said quirks. We've got a wire tie down here. I remove all these wire ties. You don't want one of these to break free over time, especially in Arizona where we have a very dry atmosphere. These get brittle, and it could be years, but they'll break apart, separate, and they're made of metal. And if it falls behind your board and it short circuits something, that's a whole new computer basically you're going to have to buy, all because you didn't want to take 3 seconds to take the metal wire ties out and replace it with the nylon zip ties that they gave you, so that you have no excuse. This is just done as a cheap way to secure it in shipping. They are not intended to be no metal should be in the system unless it's a wire. And even then, it's built with a thicker insulation than wire ties. So we have another wire tie here on this fan cable, which I can remove. And it's definitely one of those last checks that I do on a system, is kind of go over it and see if there's any wire ties I missed. When they're using black wire ties on a black case on black wires, I will catch myself missing a few here and there, and I'm glad I catch them before if something catastrophic were to happen. And if that were to happen under warranty, my warranty to my customer, but the manufacturer says, look, that's not a defect in our materials, that's you, that comes out of my pocket. So all that for a stupid wire tie. We've got a little screen protector here, which we can remove. And then down here, we have essentially an area for the power supply to go up front. And we're seeing this more and more, where the power supply, you're still going to plug it in back here, and it's like in a little extension cable that runs. The downside of that is you can't flip the power supply switch on and off, but you can still pull the power cable out or unplug it from the wall or turn the surge protector off. Like, there's lots of other ways to get that job done. This makes a lot more sense moving it to the front and a heat perspective. By putting the fans here, as you can imagine, this will draw cold air in below the graphics card if a graphics card were added, and then that will blow up onto the graphics card instead of blowing hot air around the power supply, where basically the air getting hot from the power supply, or the power supply just simply being in the way of the airflow. Because it's big and it's right here, not much air is going to be able to get around it. The power supply fan should be on the bottom. And so moving it up front does make more sense. We're probably going to see this almost become like a new standard. I think that we're starting to see more and more of it. I think the first time I saw it was with the Johnsbow case, and now it's becoming more frequent. It's not normal, but I think it's going to become the new norm. It just makes more sense when it comes to placing your parts. But this whole power supply shroud then comes off with these 2 thumb screws, which I think are captive. Yeah, those are held captive. And that just slides back and off. So far, everything's very intuitive. I appreciate that. Now here you'll notice instead of wire ties, they've used proper nylon zip ties. But they didn't cut the pigtails off very good, so be careful. You can run your hand across. They will cut your skin. So I would just turn those around the other way. So if they want to be pokey, they can be pokey that way. We've got some kind of a thing here. Oh, there's another wire tie right here. That is our power supply extension cable. And we have a GPU support bracket right here that can come out or it can be adjusted. That's what these slots are for. We've got a cable management slot here. You've got cable management through here. Plenty of room up on top for liquid cooler if that's your thing. In fact, we're not going to put a liquid cooler on this, but if you wanted to, I see a little handle right here. Does that lift up? It does. It lifts up indeed. So you get real easy access to everything. I applaud Lian Li for that. That's smart design. Even if you're not somebody who's going to do this more than once, why make it more painful and complicated than it needs to be? Lian Li has always liked to use these little plastic cabinet clips. They're plastic. And again, I live in a very dry climate in Phoenix, Arizona, and they will get brittle and crack, especially if somebody keeps opening and closing it and they won't leave it alone. Usually, Lian Li gives you extras. They've been doing that for years. I don't know if I saw any, though. Oh, the one thing that wasn't in a plastic bag are those little plastic cabinet-style clips. And they're pretty easy to find in places like, I would imagine if we went to Amazon and looked for those, like let's just say they didn't give us enough. And that would suggest to me you're somebody who can't leave it alone and you're breaking them. But regardless, what if we needed those? What would they call them? I'll type in Lian Li plastic panel clips. I don't know. There's a name for them. I can't think what they're called. You know, maybe I'll just Google what the name is. Let's try that. Lian Li plastic panel clips. There they are. It's called a retaining clip. And what's interesting is they show up, the first search result takes me to Etsy of all places. But even though it specifies which Lian Li it's for, even the train PC that we sent to Peter, to Buster, has these exact same clips. So Lian Li likes to use these a lot. So they should be pretty easy to find spares if you need them. But they've already given, what, about 4? You get like 4 spares. And the case is only using, I think, 2 for each side. And then 6 on the top. So they don't give you a replacement for everyone. You just get a couple spare. Just like you get 1 spare tire, not 4 spare tires. But I imagine if we were to continue that search, if I go back, it's not going to let me go back. Let's close that tab. Let's see here if we got anything on Amazon. There's eBay. I wouldn't buy these used because they're going to be dried out. DE, so apparently it's just called a retaining clip. So here's the other trick that I've learned. Oh, and the M1 case is made by Lian Li, so that makes sense. So I'm seeing a lot of stuff eBay related. I don't see anything Amazon. Oh wait, what's this? 3D printed? That's the wrong color. What you can do is if you look at the name of the product, but I don't want to look, you know, let's say I don't want to buy it from Etsy, I can highlight retaining clip front panel bracket for Lian Li, and I don't need from Germany, so we'll Control C to copy that. We'll go over here to Amazon, which is also relentless. Nandor the Relentless is also Amazon. All right, that was Jeff Bezos' first name for Amazon, and he's never let it go. We typed that same title in just to see if that helps our search results. Unfortunately, it doesn't. So then I would just say, let's get rid of that. I can almost always find little accessories on Amazon if I know the right words. It's not a bracket or a socket. So what I would do, since this search isn't coming up with anything very useful, is I would just go back to the original Google search results and try the phrasing of a different seller. I'm sure I could find him on Amazon. And if I'm desperate and I don't want to waste any more time, just the simple Google search taking me to, you know, any one of these. And just order from Etsy's fine, $6. They're like, what, $1.50 a piece or something. Let's go one more time. What if I just type in this make and model, go back to Amazon, type in the word clip, just to see. Nothing. We're getting close. Sometimes if you are close, you can click on it and see what the recommendations are. So if it's not exactly like I want this in, let's say, black, we can scroll down, and usually if there's alternative items, they'll be listed here. And yeah, that's not helping me either. So, you know, look, most of the time I can find what I want on Amazon. In a situation like this, if I needed those, I just want you to know you can find them online. Even if it's not Amazon, it's possible that if you should ever need them, by then Amazon does sell them, or some seller on Amazon fills that gap. Or they've got it phrased in such a way that we're not finding it while we're live on camera here. And if that ever gets addressed, it's possible they're there and just something's misspelled or labeled wrong. So just know those are options. And again, if you're not constantly opening and closing your case, you're not going to deal with any broken clips. They break when people keep opening and closing the case, and as the case gets older, it makes the clips more fragile and they're more likely to break. And that's not to say you can't open the case. Of course you can. You should be opening it, in my opinion, twice a year, at least one side of it, to blow the dust and debris out of it, especially if you got all 4 fans going. So it's not like you need to necessarily open the top unless you've got a liquid cooler you want to blow out as well. And you wouldn't necessarily need to remove the front. Well, that's not even being held in with clips anyway, that's magnets. And this panel would be even less so unless you're changing hardware. So I don't see a problem with that. Okay, let me jump back over to the chat. Rob Dvorak says hello. Jack Kugelmis joins us and says hello. Okay, all right. He says it's got quirks. What are the quirks? Well, the best way to find any quirks is to start building it and see what happens. I'm not seeing anything that looks like it could be a problem, but that's all right. It would ruin the surprise. let's get building. Let's get to getting the board in here. Since the motherboard is already prepped, we just need to place it and make sure that all of the mounting holes align with the pre-installed standoffs. I appreciate that Lian Li puts 9 standoffs in the standard ATX position. So when you're using an ATX board, uh-oh, what do I hear? Oh, I dropped a screw. Hold on a second. I guess I forgot to take that out earlier. And that needs to go in my little bag right here while I'm thinking about it. Anyway, as I was saying, this case can hold an ATX board, a micro ATX board, or a mini ITX board. As such, standoffs can be moved to accommodate different styles and standards of motherboards that this case will fit. But ideally, you would match an ATX board with an ATX case. And also, we do not have an I/O shield built on the back of this board, so we'll have to add that first. But let me just make sure the fitment is there, and let's make sure that the standoffs are in the right location. One, two, three, four, five, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's perfect. Perfect. All right, I love it when I don't have to make adjustments. Everything fits a standard. Now, looking in our used motherboard box, somebody has already removed the I/O shield. Seems fine, but you've got to watch these little grounding straps. These can be, the ones that go up and down can be a real pain in the butt. They can block access to USB, HDMI, even your network port. This one's over the network port. These little metal straps, kind of an old school way of doing things. Most modern I/O shields on most modern motherboards are not just a cheap piece of stamped thin metal like this anymore. These are being phased out, and it's becoming much cheaper to just build the I/O shields on the back of the board, which also just happens to make it a lot easier to install. I've seen a lot of people struggle with getting the I/O shields installed when they've never done it before, and there is sort of a finesse to it. And it's just something you practice and you get better at, just like playing the piano. And if you're only building one, that's okay. You probably will be building another one because it's so much fun. People really enjoy building. Look at me preaching to the choir, huh? And every time you do it, it gets a little easier. And eventually, it becomes no big deal, and you're like, wow, he made that look easy. That's because I've only done that about 25,000 times. But besides that, now we should be able to line this up, and it should align properly. Let me go back over this way. I don't know if this camera will pick that up. With all the holes here, again, I want to watch that grounding strap right underneath there and make sure that it doesn't bend down and cover our Ethernet port. See, by default, that little strap, it wants to drop down and go inside the port. That's a grounding point that could cause a problem. So I want to just bend that up. And thankfully, on this I/O shield, there's only one of those. I've seen some I/O shields that have multiples. Now, the metal straps that are going sideways, those aren't long enough to interfere with anything. But you'd also want to just take a moment, once you've got the board lined up, and just look through your I/O ports before you start securing anything down in the case. Get down on your knees and look at the ports and see if there's anything that would prevent you from plugging HDMI, DisplayPort, PS2, USB. Make sure they're all fully accessible. So I'm going to take a quick look at that right now, because at this point you guys can see it better than I can. So let me turn it around so I can see it here. Get down at its level. I can see the USB ports, the HDMI and DisplayPort are kind of crooked. That should be because something with the motherboard isn't seated right, but not because of the I/O shield. That's a different issue that will likely be resolved. What's holding us up here? It's just a bit of motherboard flex. So when we put the screws down, what's happening is, whether it's in shipping, these circuit boards today, they're made to have flex. And the flex can have a bit of a memory. So when you get the board, it could be a little warped, but that's okay. It's not causing any harm. And when you put all 9 screws in and you keep that board completely flat, what that will do is it creates a new memory where the board will actually correct itself. And the next time you take the board out, you'll notice the warp is gone.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to check my email.
You gotta get a light, I'm telling you.
A little light
Or
comes
a
on.
ding or
Check
something.
email. Maybe we'll put something in.
Yeah.
Thank you for the reminder.
Yeah.
Our friend Charlie Purdy sends an Amazon gift card. He says this is for the channel and community, and a bottle of steak sauce for Mara. Oh, thank you so much, Charlie. That's very kind of you. Speaking of Amazon, I just got a bunch of Amazon notifications here for stuff I've shipped. Another Amazon gift card. It's a PayPal contribution from our friend Mark Gaines, joining us from Northern Ireland. And Mark says nothing. He contributes $64.36. That's a very generous contribution. Thank you to Mark Gaines, as always. And again, a super thank you to our friend Charlie Purdy with a very generous Amazon gift card. I also see Rick Lakes. You've reached out as I've asked. After the show, I'll reach out to you because I have an idea I want to share with you and get your thoughts on it. And I think that catches me up. We did get an email from a member earlier who built a new computer. They built an Asus B760, where is it? Is it a B760 plus Wi-Fi or something? And after they updated the BIOS, every time they go to reboot the computer, it only boots into the BIOS, and they have to manually select their NVMe drive. Otherwise, they say it runs great. Just so you know, with Asus BIOSes, and I don't know if Mike's Unboxing has covered this, there's often a second BIOS update that happens after the first one for the Intel firmware, the ME firmware, the management engine firmware. It's very confusing, and I've shown it, and it's the only manufacturer I've seen where you have to load the BIOS twice, effectively. The same BIOS, you go in and update it again, only this time it'll say it's updating the Intel ME firmware. And I believe that's the solution to the problem he's having. I'm not aware of ASRock, Gigabyte, or MSI following this method. Only Asus does this, and only on certain boards, and that's my guess. And hopefully that'll solve it for him. But it's definitely not standard. It's not a standard practice, and it's not obvious. You're getting some exercise today going up and down the stairs.
Right? Yeah, so that email, he did respond that did not.
Okay. So basically, when you update a BIOS, and now the system always boots into the BIOS instead of booting from your drive, aside from the obvious, check your boot order stuff, which I'm assuming he did, the way that you apply the Windows ME firmware, again, is not obvious. So I would just tell him, apply the firmware, apply the BIOS again. I was shocked the first time I saw it because I was confused, and we were doing it live. And I read a little bit more detail about because you know me and directions, I'm not reading them unless I have to. So I went back and read the installation instructions, and it mentioned this whole second flashing process on the firmware for the Windows ME, and I couldn't figure out how to make that happen. So I just tried putting the same BIOS on a second time, but the message I got the second time wasn't that we're updating the BIOS. The second time it said, now we're updating the Intel ME. And I'm like, why couldn't this have been two separate files? So that may be also something for him to look into as well. All right, we are ready to mount the board, so I'm going to take out the screws here, and I'm not sure which screws are the motherboard screws, but I'm going to guess, based on our selection here, it has to be, oh, that's weird. Well, whatever it is, we need 9 screws, right? We've got 9 mounting holes. And one of the ways you can tell which screw is for the standoffs that hold your board is simply by counting how many you've got. If I've only got 4 of a particular screw, clearly that's not the right one. I'm going to need to have a quantity of 9. And so what I'm going to do is just use the magnetic tip to help me get all of these screws out, because whatever was in this plastic bag was a combination of hard drive screws for mounting 3.5-inch drives, 2.5-inch drive screws, and there's a little socket that you can use a Phillips screwdriver on for tightening those 5mm standoffs, like what I put on the M.2 drive, and including the standoffs underneath the board. I have a tool, so I don't have to use this little wonky thing. It's nice they throw it in. All of these little screws here, they have what we call a shoulder on them. And the shoulder is often used for cushioning a washer below the screw. So typically you'll have some washers like or grommets, and the grommet sits where there is no thread, and that is often like a slot that whatever the screws into can slot into, like a hard drive cage. So we definitely don't need anything with a shoulder, and we don't need these grommets because we're not putting in any mechanical drives. We have a couple of spare standoffs as well. I appreciate they've given us extras. In fact, they've given us a lot of extras here. There's no reason not to. They're very inexpensive. We don't need any of those. So as I whittle away what I don't need, that's going to leave me ideally with what I do need. Watch. Watch the Sherlockian process of elimination. So we've got these type of screws are what I refer to as power supply screws. And there are 4 of those. And the rest of the screws that remain, look, there's only 4 of these. These cannot be used for the motherboard, or at least not intended to be used on the board. So those are out. The only screws that are left are these little fine threaded with the round head screws. And they've given us how many of these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yet they've given us 12 standoffs. You think if you had 12 standoffs, you'd have 12 screws. But obviously there's some spare standoffs and not some spare screws. The most screws a motherboard will use in a case like this is 10. We're going to use 9 so we can put 1 away. And that's how I have determined which screws I need to mount the board. Pretty simple stuff. It's what I like to call common sense. Would they say common pence in England? Probably not. Now the screwdriver does have a clutch setting on it, and I've set it at a very low number 3 on the clutch. Now the tightness on these screws isn't that important. They don't all have to be the same. It's really just for me to not have to keep turning my wrist and avoid getting any sort of carpal tunnel or repetitive stress disorder from doing this kind of work for 3 decades. So why work any harder than I have to, right? And the fact that because it's a machine, it can do them all consistently, I don't see any harm in that either. Back down the stairs again.
You know what? I guess I don't need my treadmill anymore.
We got the perfect Stairmaster.
Right? Sure. You have email.
You've got mail.
You've got them.
I will get to that right after these last 2 screws. Perfect. Close that up so I don't spill it when I knock it over. Get this tool out of my face for now. We're not done with it, but I just want it out of the way. And we've got our black board with our black cooler on our black case. I think that looks great. I don't know why it has a silver I/O shield. But, you know, more expensive boards will keep that color coordination, whereas the less expensive boards you can expect that's normal, that, you know, you can pay a little less. You don't get those little details. You can see all the I/O ports now line up as the screws, all secured down, have straightened out the warp on the board. And again, you can bend these boards in half. They still work fine. They're not the brittle boards of the 70s and 80s. I suppose we can put our power supply in. The screws to mount the power supply appear to be here. So I'm questioning, you know, does the back of the power supply go here, or does it go on the other side where all the cables are? The problem is both sides of the power supply have cables, right? You've got one end of the power supply that feeds the motherboard and all of your components in the case. The other end of the power supply is the input from the power line coming in from the wall. So it looks like the mount points for the power supply are there, and then all your cable management from the back of the power supply is in this recessed area of the case. See how that goes in deeper? It's a good design. I also like that, unlike some cheaper cases, we get two full USB Type A's on top and a USB Type C. They're not robbing us of one of our USB Type A's. You'll see that on cheap cases, and it's not worth it, you know, to lose that USB port just to save $3 on the case. Buy a different case. That's my opinion. Power supply. Oh, an email. Let me check email first, and then we'll do the power supply next. Oh, our friend Buster. Buster sends a very generous Amazon gift card. Holy macaroni. Well, thank you so much, Buster. He says, hey, Carey and Mara, I just want to say thank you. Use this gift to help you with the renovation of Studio C. Your friend, Buster. Wow, that is... that man is so generous. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, we're going under the second most severe renovation here. And when I say that, I mean how invasive and expensive it is. The first part was getting the studio area renovated, which we've done. I just haven't organized it yet. That's on me. It's waiting on me. But now we're doing upstairs, and it's a big, big job. But it's going to be so nice when it's done, and I hopefully won't have to revisit this for the rest of my natural remaining life. Is that wishful thinking? I mean, unless there's a flood or some damage from some fire or something, we should be good with these floors, with all the new electrical work, with the new paint, at least 20, if not 30 years. So I think we're good. After that, I should be worried about, I don't know, maybe somebody changing my diapers and feeding me mushy food. Thank you so much, Buster. That's very kind of you. The least I can... very generous. Okay, so let me grab the power supply. Now, our friend Mike's Unboxing, you know, he's got a great relationship with some PR folks there in England with Thermaltake. I'm jealous of that. I like Thermaltake products. I wish we had that kind of relationship with their PR here in the US. But all the Thermaltake products you see here, we buy, including this power supply. Why did I pick this power supply? Well, first of all, let's talk about value. Like I didn't get enough of that earlier, right? Here's the thing. We bought a discounted board. We saved $25. So this, sorry, $50 on this board. 50? I think this board normally sells for $175, and I believe I picked it up at $125. I believe it was a $50 savings, pretty significant. And the board's in great shape. It was just missing the little standoff and screw, which most people wouldn't even use anyway. But $5 fixed that and left me with extras. We're using a 14500 CPU, which comes with a cooler. It outperforms the i7s of yesteryear, even the i9s of yesteryear. Just because it's not an i7 or an i9, you don't have to turn your nose up at it. But if you've got the wallet to afford to turn your nose up, by all means. So I'm trying to keep this to be a value, a good deal. So I'm sourcing a mid-range processor with a mid-range motherboard, with a mid-range case, price-wise, with a mid-range power supply. I'm not looking to turn this into, an elegant showpiece to be shown in a gallery. I want it to be a workable, usable, but also attractive and reliable computer. So I've had very good luck with Thermaltake power supplies, and I have had to throw away a couple of Thermaltake power supplies that were 15 years old or older. They still work great, but they're just so old. They're not power efficient long before the 80 plus ratings. I just can't reuse them. They're, the red and ketchup and mustard colored cables. So I've had very good luck with Thermaltake power supplies. Yes, I have had one or two go bad, but compared to how many I've used that have never gone bad, they're a solid bargain. Let me show you what I mean. If we jump over to Amazon again, let's get back over there, pick up where we left off a moment ago, and check out the value. If we're looking for a 500 watt power supply from EVGA, can we even find one, and if so, at what price? Now you'll notice this first thing that pops up, the overall pick, is the one I bought because it's $40 brand new. The AGV power supply is a little bit cheaper, but I don't know who they are. And EVGA power supplies like this one, these used to be $35, $40, and now you can see there's no price at all. And if we click to see what the options are, look, somebody wants to sell it to you used for $148. They might as well be asking $11,148. That's such an unreasonable price for a 500 watt budget, entry level, bronze rated, 500 watt non-modular power supply. Somebody's smoking something, and I don't know how they can afford to buy it unless they're tricking somebody into buying this. That is offensive. That suggests you don't know the value of what you're buying. So if I can't get these anymore, what else can I get at, under 50 bucks? MSI's got one, a little bit larger at 550 for $55.10. But I'll be honest, I don't need the extra 50 watts. So I don't want to spend the extra $5. I also don't have a lot of experience with MSI power supplies, so I don't know how reliable they are. Now here's a more expensive EVGA 500 watt gold power supply. So it's gold rated. How much are sellers? When it says see options, that means it's not coming from Amazon in most cases. It's coming from third-party sellers. And this USA buy appears to be a scalper. Best I can tell, they're just a scalper. And I don't know what kind of ratings they have, and I don't care because I won't buy from anybody that is just out for themselves and they're not looking to do anything but take advantage of their customers. I don't care what their expenses are. On a platform like Amazon, where we're accustomed to paying regular retail price, he's at least twice over retail price. Apevia, I haven't had enough Apevia power supplies to say they're good or bad. I don't think we've had a bad one, but I don't have enough because that's an awfully cheap price, 28 bucks, and a thermally controlled fan. It almost sounds too good to be true. I just don't know. I'd have to use a lot more of these and see how they work over time, if I can trust them or not. Or are they going to result in warranty support calls? Even if it's not a warranty call, even if it's 2 years and it's out of warranty, what is the warranty on this anyway? Anybody's guess. I don't know what that means. It doesn't seem to tell us.
So I don't know. They might be okay. It's a little sketchy. It's, you know, 28 bucks, pretty cheap. But do I want to put my name and my reputation on something cheap? How about something of value? So the more I keep coming back to the Thermaltake, this one's actually a little bit more. This is a 5-year warranty. The Smart W3 is $50. And I was thinking I should be able to buy like an EVGA for around $40. But now things have gone up in price, and I don't know what EVGA is doing, but their inventory seems pretty low on power supplies. A 600 watt with a 5-year warranty for $85 non-modular feels about $20 too expensive, in my opinion. Aries Game is another manufacturer on par with Apevia in the sense that they're going to be very inexpensive. There's a $10 coupon that's going to bring that price to $44.60. I've only installed 2 or 3 of them. I think we had one go bad. And they're so inexpensive, I wouldn't warranty it. I don't want to use any modular power supplies. And then there's, well, AGV series is from Aries Game, and you can see they have a pretty good deal, $38. It's only about $10 cheaper than Thermaltake if I want to roll those dice. I've had too many Corsair power supplies go bad on me. I'm done with them. With few exceptions, I may use them, but overall, I will try my best to avoid them. I've never had any issues with Segotep power supplies, but I've only used a handful of them, so I have not established how reliable they are. I'm not willing to put a less expensive product under a name brand I'm not familiar with into a brand new product that I'm selling a customer, turning my customer into a guinea pig. Something like this that doesn't seem to have a brand name on it, you couldn't give this to me. No. Again, Gambius, we've had good luck with Gambius, but we've only had like 2 of their power supplies, but they've both been fine. And the Thermaltake power supplies, they just don't die. And Red Dragon, I don't know anything about Red Dragon. But yeah, this Thermaltake right here, 40 bucks. That's a great deal. And that's what we've got in front of us today. But I, in fact, think I got this for $25 because I scrolled down here and saw used and new, and sometimes you can find a really good deal. So what I can do to find a good deal is under my search, look for Amazon resale and see what's been returned. And you can see the price is listed a little differently down here underneath the product. $77 for a 700 watt power supply. That's bronze, 3-year warranty. That's okay. These are going to be returns. And, you know, quantities are limited. One. But all of these, because they're coming from Amazon resale, have the full Amazon 30-day return. Same as any brand new product. Now, $110 for a Corsair RM750, fully modular. That's decent, but not a steal. I don't know enough about Gigabyte power supplies to recommend them or not. 83 bucks for a 750 watt fully modular is a great price. One available. Anyway, if you want a little secret tip from your Uncle Carey on how to find really good deals on returns, you just want to search Amazon resale. And again, you have that same 30-day money-back guarantee. However, it may slow your bill down if something you need is not in the box. And they will warn you. They say, you know, if you click on any of these, it'll probably say details. In this case, looks and functions as if it were new. Item may not come in original packaging. Like, I don't care about that. You might. And then it might, the condition of it might be such that it might say something like, well, here, let's look up this motherboard. Maybe they have more returns on this B760 gaming. Probably help if I type in the box. B760 gaming. What's this thing called? Plus Wi-Fi. So that's our board here at 165. It looks like the price came down $10 because it was $175. It says more buying choices at $124. See, it was about a $50 savings at the time. It's become a $40 savings. Now, of all the people selling it, I look through here and I look to see who is selling it. Is it coming from Amazon resale, or is it coming from some unknown seller, which may not have as fast of delivery, and it may not have as generous of a return policy? There could be restocking fees. You could have to pay for the shipping back, in which case, never mind, because that's not enough savings anyway. From 182, I could buy it brand new for 165. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, brand new 165 from Amazon. So right here at 124, looks and functions as if it were new. Moderate package damage observed during inspection. There's usually a disclaimer that says, and you might not get the instructions or other little accessories. But you can still use that as a reason to return it. You could say, well, you know what? I didn't get my instructions or accessories, even though you warned me I might not. They'll still honor the return within 30 days. Okay? So that's a really good deal. And I don't know if they tell you how many they've got. And I could get it in 2 days for free. So that's how I bargain shop on Amazon. Look at me giving away all the secrets. Inventory changes daily. So if you're looking for something and it's not there, check again tomorrow. Power supply, we're going to put that in, right? Let's do that now. It should be pretty easy. I'm hoping this will fit. Looks like it just fits. Ooh. It does have a couple feet that it sits on that have rubber on them to keep the vibration of metal on metal, so that way the rubber absorbs that vibration, and then it should be silent, right? So you're not hearing any sort of, you know, from the fan spinning and the power supply rubbing up against the metal directly, which also rubs off paint that no one's going to see. It's just that vibration dampener is not only easier on the electronics from being jarred from the motion of the fan on and off and on and off, but also just the annoyance of hearing metal on metal, which can happen. So that's pretty well a standard these days on all cases, all modern cases. And then the power supply just comes through the other side like that. And I should be able to just go ahead and put those 4 power supply screws in. I don't know if this used power supply we bought came with screws, but I think you only paid $25 for that. I don't think that was purchased new. Regardless, they're just standard case screws, and they did include them. They're all the same. So right there, looks good to me. I can tell this power supply is used because somebody tried putting a screw in the wrong place and it's all shiny through one of the vent holes. That is not a screw mounting point. Now look, I don't know why so many power supply makers make the vent holes the same shape and size as the threaded holes for the screws, but there's no threads in them. So somebody was a newbie or not paying attention. But you know what? For me to save 15 bucks off of a $40 power supply, yes, please. I'm more than happy to accept that. Heck, I could have done it myself. We're going to take our extension cable, and that's going to go in right like so. Let me just tuck that in down here, get rid of the slack, and we'll plug it in just like this. Now, on some power supplies, this could be sideways. It could be going the other way. That's something that might matter to you. Regardless, you should be able to figure it out and move the cable around as need be. It would be nice if this was on some kind of a swivel that could accommodate the locations of not only the plug, but its orientation, if it's vertical or opposite 180 degrees. There's no rhyme or reason to how power supply makers will do that. And if they're going to provide you the extension, in my opinion, the extension should have a swivel so you can rotate this, even if preferably it would click into place every 90 degrees, click, click, click. That way it doesn't just swivel. Although even if it was on a free swivel, that wouldn't be that hard to engineer. They probably already have it made. And then, you know, on one of the boards, you know, we had that whole Lian Li Strimer cable, which is just a mess of cabling. Sure, it looks cool, but it's a nightmare to work on, and they're like $100, pretty close to it. Just to add some lights? Are you kidding me? So I was online and I saw these little guys here. And this is much more subtle. So if we wanted to add a little RGB and also reduce our cabling, or at least, so what do we normally do? We run a big power cable right through here and onto the board. It's unsightly. We got a smoke glass cover, so it's gonna be hard to see it. But what if we could make that look a little better for $10 and no excessive cable management? Okay, how do we do that? Well, these little guys are from a company called Easy DIY, Easy Do It Yourself. And if I jump back over here to Amazon and I search for Easy DIY, let me share the screen with you here. We get these 24-pin angled power adapters. Now you can get them in a 90-degree angle. These are 180 degrees. One goes in, one goes out. And it adds a little RGB here. But we have a black motherboard. So guess what? They make it in black. For some reason, there's a $2 difference. So why was it $10? It shows $21.99 because somebody returned them. So if we look over, oh, they're gone now. If new and used is $21.75, never mind. So let's just say you buy it brand new for $22. You're adding a little bit of RGB, and then your cabling goes behind the motherboard on this plug, and this plug goes into the motherboard. So let me show you. In theory, this should be perfect. Also, you have this mirror sort of front face to it. So if you look in, it just looks like it goes to infinity there, plus this additional RGB on the side. And if you do have a white board in a white case, you can buy it in white for $2 more. Reviews on this seem to be a little mixed, but I don't know. Let's decide for ourselves. Overall, people seem happy with it. Let me jump back over to camera one. And one of these is a black one, and one of these is a white one. This one says white. This one says black. We get a Go Faster sticker and what looks like a business card that tells us nothing. Let's build it. Great idea. This is our little adapter. It's got a little plastic over the, it looks a lot smaller in person than it did on the picture, didn't it? And then in order to control the RGB on this, you'd want to plug this into an ARGB header on your motherboard, and then you can use your motherboard software to synchronize all your RGB. So there is one other cable, just one cable, if you want to hook it up, that'll plug in. I would do this now before it's in place. Let's get rid of this wire tie. And that's going to plug into just a standard ARGB header. So $20 to add a little bit of RGB that's not over the top. It's not a Las Vegas marquee. If your case will support it, because you can't change the distance on this. Let me bring it up to the camera and I'll show you what I'm talking about. You've got to make sure the case and the edge of your board, that there's a hole beside the edge of the board in the case that you're using, so that when this plugs into your motherboard, you're going to be right at the edge of the board, and there's got to be an opening in the case close by for that to poke out. And you're just going to take your power supply cable that normally plugs directly on the board. You have to take it and bend it around. Well, now you can just plug it directly straight in without bending the cable and keep all that hidden behind the motherboard, even when you don't have a motherboard that has the Back to the Future, Project Zero rear case plugs. This is a very inexpensive way to do it. You get a little RGB right up there, and then you've got your little infinity mirror in there that lights up as well. So it sounds too easy and too cheap. Every bit of RGB I've seen has always been way overpriced and way over complex with cable management. Is this everything it's made out to be? It's one way to find out, because it's easy enough to undo it if we don't like it. We're going to plug that in right here. And I'm going to bring the case down like this so I can use gravity to assist me pushing that down. It should click in. Good luck getting it out, by the way. There's no release lever on it. And I can't really tell if that's all the way in there or not. Don't break your board. Don't put so much pressure on. Just take a look to see that the plug and the socket are meeting up and there's no gap. And if you want to get this off, you're probably going to need to get a small flat blade screwdriver and sort of pry up at the seam, because there is no clip and no release mechanism. It just fits in there really tight. Okay, well that was easy. Now what? Well, now our 24-pin power connector for our board's right here. So all I have to do is grab the 24-pin coming off the back of our power supply right here. Now that of course has a clip, and it has a clip on this side, so at least that's easy to plug and unplug as needed. Ooh, it sounds crunchy. I guess it's just the way it's made. And then we can tie up this cable management right in here and then stick the excess down below. Super clean. I'm digging it so far. Then of course we have the ARGB plug, which we can just, for right now, if we just want to do the very minimum for cable management, I can run the cable out through the back and then back in again. I know it seems kind of counterintuitive, but that way we move all of the slack cable towards the back. And then that just plugs in on the top corner of this board, where every board, how many ARGB headers you get. And or if you have other ARGB fans, which this one does not have, you can often plug in a serial, one to the next one to the next one, like Christmas lights. But I think that's the only ARGB thing we're going to have on the board, minus the board itself has some built-in RGB, I think. Okay, to plug in our motherboard power, or CPU power, once again, if we come around to the back, unscrew this. Now, some boards may have an 8-pin and a 4-pin connector. If so, the 4-pin connector is for overclocking, and the 8-pin connector is absolutely not negotiable. We don't need to have that other 4-pin on a 14500 processor that's not even overclockable. And even if it was an unlocked processor, I wouldn't want to overclock it, because the system BIOS does that all for you these days. So I'm not sure who that's for anymore. But if you want to use it, you're going to have to be a little more particular with which power supply you buy, because most power supplies only come with a single EPS 12-volt power connector for your CPU. You have to spend a bit more money to get a fancier power supply if you want to get 2 of these. But for our purposes and what we're building today, and again, I want you to watch, we're going to be able to use these Velcro ties to go right up through here, and then we'll be able to go across the top here. See what I'm saying? Like, look how easy this cable management's going to be. And then run it right through there. And by the way, that's something you should do at the end. Okay, I'm just showing you how that's going to fit. And then we just plug our 12-volt power connector on, which is very easy for me to access right now with everything open like this. Very easy to work on. If this case has quirks, I haven't found them yet. Everything seems like it fits like a glove and seems very well designed. But we're not done yet. Maybe we'll run into those quirks yet. So I've got a power cable here that's going to one of these fans down on the bottom. And just for the sake of hooking them up, even though I might not keep them hooked up, this motherboard has fan headers right beside the fan. So again, we can run all the excess cable right out through the bottom here. I don't know how well you can see that, but just right there. And we just pull the cable down, keeps it nice and hidden. You guys see it? And what else can we hook up? Our front fans probably have a header on here somewhere. This is all extra power supply cables we don't need right now, so they can all be tucked in where the power supply would normally go. Again, super easy cable management. You couldn't ask for that to be any easier. This is our front port audio, which they had routed down here for us. And that's usually going to go up somewhere towards the back. Yeah, there it is. And it only plugs in one way. The connector is almost always going to be on the bottom left of the motherboard. Or front port audio, which means the front audio jack here for headphones, microphone. I see people often plug these in and they miss a row of pins. They don't realize they're only on one of the two sets of pins. And they wonder why their audio doesn't work. And I just literally did that right now. I just accidentally, while I was talking about it, I just put it on one row of pins. And it's going to be very difficult because it's all dark in there. But right over here, this connector, which one is it? Yeah, this one. That connector, see, even on the close-up, all you're going to do is see the back of my hand. That's where filming this does get to be a challenge. So let me go back, take that back off, and let's make sure I'm on both sets of pins this time. You might need a flashlight. You can often feel the resistance is a lot tighter when you're on both sets of pins. If it goes on too easy, you probably didn't get it on all the way. Let me take a quick look in the chat before we go any further. Jim Kenny says, hello, welcome in. And Andy Winbridge says hello. Parker Morris joining us. Mark Gaines with a 10-pound super chat said, Carey, thank you for answering my Wi-Fi question. It turned out I was getting interference from my neighbors, so I just changed the channel and it's working great now. It's surprising how easy some of these, what seem to be technical problems, turn out to be something as easy as changing a channel. We've experienced that here numerous times. Buster says, I just heard that Loretta Swift of MASH has died at the age of 87. Rest in peace. Yeah, we lost George Wendt, who played Norm on Cheers last week as well. Andy Kane contributes €2. He says, every little bit helps. I love this family. Well, thank you for being a part of the family, Andy. We're certainly glad to have you here. David Graham says, can you mount solid-state drives where the power supply used to go? And if so, can you turn the power supplies to blow down? I don't see any reason why you couldn't reverse the power supply, the fans rather. Could you mount solid-state drives under there? There are some panels here that come out. Let's see. I haven't even looked at that. Oh, I wonder if that zip tie was what was supposed to be holding our plastic piece in. Now, quite often you'll see me just cut zip ties because the pigtails have already been cut off. But sometimes, if you just squeeze the sides of them, like left and right, squeeze it, it may release. I guess if you wanted to reuse it. Depends on the zip tie, though. Yeah, this one apparently isn't one of those. You have to go sideways on it. It depends how flexible they are. Just so you know, if you're trying to recycle them, it may be possible. I'm just going to cut it off. I was hopeful it would work, and then you'd go, wow, I never knew that. It doesn't work on all zip ties. It does work on some. So it might be worth trying if you want to recycle them. Now, this panel is typically used for a mechanical or solid state drive based on the holes I'm seeing. The question is, how would we mount a drive to that? And are these the quirks perhaps Mike was referring to? It's a square hole. But nothing in our parts are square. I might have to go to documentation to figure that one out. Now, whether or not the air blows down or blows up probably won't make any difference in the cooling of your solid state drives or your mechanical drives. These are items that traditionally don't get hot. NVMe drives, which run at speeds that are anywhere from 3 to 20 times faster, they get hot because they run faster. Mechanical drives and solid state drives, unless they're stacked on top of each other, they generally don't generate enough heat to ever be a problem, even with no fans on them. So the fact that these fans are going to bring air in, that air is going to pass over the drives and then exhaust out the top. However, if it makes you feel better to turn them around, you absolutely can do that. Any fan can be flipped over. I wouldn't. Again, the internet is obsessed with heat. I don't understand why. If you can give me an example of a 2.5-inch solid state drive overheating, I'd love to see it. I've never seen it happen in my entire career. I've never seen a mechanical drive overheat either. So I don't know that you're solving anything so much as creating unnecessary work for yourself to avoid a problem you never would have had and you likely have never had. Also, I'm not a big fan of putting drives in a computer anymore. That made sense years ago, but today, not so much. But they do give you the option, and you're certainly welcome to use it if you choose to. I would not set up a customer for future failure and put my reputation on drives that we could easily hook up through USB that will run exactly the same speed as anything you can plug on here. USB right now is capable of running with USB 4 3,800 megabytes a second. But the only thing you can place on one of these 2.5-inch or 3.5-inch drives, they will only run at 550 megabytes per second at an SSD and 200 megabytes per second on a mechanical drive, give or take. So they're pitifully slow. And NVMe drives, which are not only faster, are often less expensive. You don't have to deal with a power cable, a data cable, or worry about the heat when they're mounted in the front on an NVMe slot. It's faster, it's smaller, and it effectively costs exactly the same. Now, if you're somebody who just needs one big drive, say you play a lot of games and the games are large, so you get yourself a big, 12 terabyte mechanical drive, I get it. I see why you would use one of these in that scenario and exchange their performance for capacity. But doing any more than that, in my opinion, you'd be much better off buying a USB dock and just put your drives in the dock. Don't trap the heat in the computer, and don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's the best advice as a technician that I can give you if you want a trouble-free computer for the longest period of time. Put the odds in your favor that that computer is never going to overheat and it's never going to break unless something very unusual happens. Like you're setting yourself up for failure if you put any drives in this, any mechanical drives or any 2.5-inch solid state drives. That is a future problem. But I think it's just an old habit. I think people are used to using drives in their computer, the old school drives, and they don't realize just how fast USB is and how much more convenient it is. Should a problem arise with the box, at least you've got your data out here separately that you could theoretically go plug in another box and get back up and running. And at the very least, if you do any repair, This isn't involved with all, say your power supply goes out and then you got to reroute all the cables and rerun them again. Keep it external to USB and you don't have any of that headache. Or if the system, the drive dies, and it will die, it's a mechanical drive, doesn't take your whole system down with it as you try and diagnose what's wrong, all you do is unplug the USB cable. Like there's no way putting it more than one drive in a computer is justifiable unless you're willing to say, you know, you're willing to sacrifice all of that. Then by all means. I'm not willing to do it. So it appears they give you 2 of these down here. And where else can you mount drives? Is that it? See, I don't even look at that anymore because it just doesn't make sense to build a brand new computer and put old parts in it. I wouldn't buy a brand new car and go through some old tires off my used car and potentially ruin my brand new car. Like, pick a lane, you know what I mean? If you want to buy a used car and put your used tires on it, by all means. If you're going to buy a brand new car, then it should have brand new tires on it. I would not be carrying over and blending old and new because that's where you're going to have problems. I guarantee it. You will always, without exception, you are going to have problems the rest of us won't have who don't do that. And that problem is always going to be the old hardware. It may not be right away, but it'll be sooner than the rest of us. Statistically, you're going to hit that much, much earlier than the rest of us. And if you want to do that to your brand new machine and ruin its reliability, I can't stop you, but I can't encourage you either. All right, we've got most of the umbilicals hooked up here. We've got a few others right up here left, and we can turn this bad boy on. So for now, I'm just going to take them out of the cable management because we will need to cable manage this specifically for the hardware we've selected anyway. So just for now, we'll just keep that all tied up and out of the way. What do we have left? USB 3 and 3.1. Oh, there's our front fans right here. And the front fans on this motherboard, we have a couple of options. We could run this fan all the way down across the bottom, right next to the header at the bottom of the board, just to keep the fans together. Why not? I've also got some headers up on the top side, but I kind of feel like that'd be more visible. I want to keep it as invisible as possible. So now down here, we've got our 2 fan headers, and this board just happens to provide those there. A different board? Maybe not. Then we've got our USB 3.1 cable that usually goes near the power connector on the board. So if I come around to look where the power connector is on the board, I can come up through here, it looks like, and then right out through this side here. And then that should align just about perfectly with the plug. And bear in mind, you know, if you're twisting the plug all around, you probably don't have something aligned right. And when the cable twists, it's going to be very difficult to cable manage it. So we're going to try as much as possible. Yeah, I don't like that twist at all. I'll tell you what, just to get it done, I'm going to twist it. I don't like that twist though. And likely we can correct that in the cable management of the case. Now, normally you wouldn't even run the cable out through here. You can, but that's what these are for, these grommets. I'm coming in a little bit on the edge here, which is fine. You can do that, but they, you know, these are here for a reason, but it's going to make the cable more visible to run that distance. Then we have our USB 3.0, the bigger one, and that's going to go just below it, just above it, between the motherboard power. So this really should have been the second cable we put on, just to avoid crowding us, you know, as we're trying to work in that little spot. It looks like very difficult to see because everything's dark. Okay. I mean, that goes right up against the edge of this little adapter, but it fits. We're okay. And what is this? Oh, front port USB 2.0. And that's going to go, on this board, we have two front USBs here, USB headers. And I'm guessing we're using one for the USB type A and probably one for the monitor, if I had to guess. Gotta figure out which way this goes on. I'll need my flashlight. There's a missing pin on either the top or bottom row, and I can't quite see it. That's how they keep you from plugging in the wrong thing. Oh, this one is not a USB. It looks like it, and the reason why I can't get it to fit is it's got the opposite hole plugged. This is our front panel header for the power switch and reset switch. That's going to go over here, and it will align. It should work with any motherboard. So you don't have to worry about hooking up power switch, power LED. I think this, it says front panel, but there's only two wires. And these wires look like they go to the power LED, not the power switch. Oh no, I take it back. There is no power LED, there's no hard drive LED, and there's no reset switch. It is literally, it's literally two wires that could have just simply been a standard little power switch header or plug. But God forbid you might plug it on the wrong two pins. So by putting it on this giant, plug here, they've made it much more difficult for you as the builder to screw it up. Okay, I'm good with that. Not good with not having a power LED in a hard drive LED especially, but it is what it is. I don't really care so much about a reset switch being gone, but what is this final cable? This is a USB 2 cable. That looks like that's what's going to power the monitor as well as provide video. Let's go ahead and just plug this in. I think maybe the best route is going to be underneath everything else. I think, and then up. And I will likely change this around a little bit. Still feel like I'm missing one, but maybe not. Maybe these, I'm thinking these are USB 2, but they're USB 3. So that's the USB 3 header. That's the Type C header. That's the 3.1. Then this other one is for the monitor down here. And I think we can power this bad boy on and see if the magic smoke comes out. Let me grab a power cable, which I'm probably standing on. Power. Where's my power? Oh, here it is. Ugh. Okay, so we're going to plug into the extension cable. I need Ethernet cable. We'll plug that in. I need an HDMI cable, which I again think I'm standing on it. Yep, I stacked my panels right on top of my cable. Probably should have moved that out of the way first. All right, no blood, no foul. We'll plug that bad boy in right up here. I need a keyboard and a mouse, which I have over here. I'm not sure what the quirks are. I'd love to know what Mike considers a quirk. This seems very well designed. I don't see anything quirky about it. But I also don't know what hardware Mike was using. I'm sure it's different hardware than us. Everything fit real easy. Everything was easy to access. Let's turn this on. Let's hit the power button. There it goes. A little delay. We've got some RGB happening there on that little adapter and our RAM. So that little adapter works really good. Let's jump over to our HDMI input and see what's coming out of this video-wise. It already booted. Let me shut it down. And let's see what our boot time is on this bad boy. Oh, I never activated Windows on this. Start, shut down, restart. Those fans seem awfully loud to me, but that's probably something we can correct in the BIOS. Let's see if we can get into the BIOS and adjust that fan curve. Way too loud. That's like they're running full speed. All right, starts to fire up. We'll start pressing delete to get us into the BIOS. Which I believe I have the latest version of the BIOS for this board installed. Yeah, released on 15th of May, so just about 2 weeks ago. Pretty recent. That's our 14500 CPU, 32 gigs of our ORICO Raceline RAM. If we go over to our hardware monitor, and we can say, we can see these system fans here at 1800. That's too fast. What fan curve are they on? Let's go smart fan mode. And let's turn smart fan mode on here. So 2 of these fans are the front, even though it's only showing RPM of 1, they're sharing a fan header. That did quiet it down a little bit, but still a little too loud. Let's change this to PWM. Oh, much better. And let's change this to PWM. Oh, it's almost silent now. And then, what, escape, I guess? Save and exit, just X. Oh, that's whisper quiet now. Okay, what a difference. All right, let's see what our boot time is as it resets. We'll get our power on self-test, our post screen right there. And you can count and tell me how many seconds it takes us to get to our desktop. If you add mechanical drives to this, it will slow your boot time and it will slow the overall computer down because it keeps polling to the hard drive about every 30 seconds. Are you still there? Are you awake? And it just adds to the annoyance, in my opinion. But if you require a mechanical drive, then you require it, right? But you'll pay that price for it. Whether or not you notice it is another thing altogether as well. Now, if we take a look at our specifications, just as a reminder to what we built from last Friday, we'll go to our system properties here, and you can see we've got a terabyte storage with an Intel i5 14500, about a $260 processor that includes our cooler, which is very quiet. We're not having any overheating problems. It was engineered to be run with this processor at the recommended specifications that this board BIOS follows. When we go in there and we start overclocking it or overvolting it, you're on your own for cooling and you're on your own for opening your wallet to solve those problems you're creating. And then, you know, I never did do a, I guess, a crystal disk mark on this. So let me grab my flash drive. We should be getting about 7,000 megabytes per second out of this drive. And again, everything's budget here. This is the Fanxiang 1 terabyte drive, if I recall. Very inexpensive and uses the same controller and NAND chips as name brand drives without the name brand price. Same 5-year warranty, and I've never seen one go bad. I've installed about 30 of them so far. Both 2 terabyte and 1 terabyte versions. So let's grab Crystal Disk Mark. That bad boy over. And let's see if we're getting that 7,000 out of this thing. Also, did I load all the drivers? That's the other thing. If we want to make sure we're getting good performance, you better make sure all your drivers are installed. Yeah, I don't see any issues in here. Everything looks good. We'll close that, close that, close that, and run that. Close that too. Let me just move this over a little bit here. And let's go back over to camera 1, and I'll put myself in a corner so we can watch both at the same time. Yep, it's performing exactly like it should. It's quiet. It looks great. What about our monitor, by the way? Oh, look at that. I guess we have to load some software to use that. That's pretty cool. It even kind of looks cool. I guess that replaces a power LED, in all fairness. But you can put whatever you want on here. It just defaults to Lian Li. And then you would load some software from Lian Li to control the screen through the USB port. But if you don't load the software, it just defaults to the Lian Li logo. That's kind of cool too. All right, back over to the chat room here. David Grant with a $2 super chat says, "You're right, I have 2 docks. I was just curious." Oh yeah, for the hard drives. Yeah. All good. It's all good. Thank you for the super chat. Everybody's saying smoke test. Yeah, we got through that. Mortant said, "Hey, that's nice RAM." Yeah, and you should look at the price for what you're getting. Again, you don't pay the name brand tax on it, so pretty good deal. Andy Kane says that's Gen 4. Yes, it's a Gen 4 motherboard. And it looks like some folks in Scotland, it's getting late for them. I see Buster and Martin Hogg checking out. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. They're across the pond. Just a little pond between us. And let's see, performance is running exactly where I want it to be. I should see close to 7,000 on the top right side there. It's calculating that now. Somewhere around 6,900. That's a little low, but it's not done testing. We'll see if that goes up a little bit. Is that all it's going to give me? 66.95. It's still pretty good though. Especially when you consider name brand drives. If they perform any better than that, it's not by much, but the price can be pretty significant. So if you're willing to pay that, don't let me get in your way. Let's see. Any other final questions or comments? This will be the time to ask. I will tell you that the Johnsbo cases, I don't like the monitors that are built into those because they're running separate power in an HDMI cable, which requires you to have to run the cables out the back of the case. And I guess the logic was that with Johnsbo, you can take the monitors off and put them on a little stand on your desk and fill the hole the monitor was in with a piece of mesh covering. But I've said all along, it should just be one USB cable for power and display. And I don't like the way Johnsbo implemented it. Like, you could have the monitor or not. Like, if I didn't want the monitor, why am I buying a case with a monitor? So it was an early iteration, and prior to that, our first iteration would have been the Xenos build, which also has a built-in screen, color screen, which I think is a 7-inch screen on that, a little bit bigger than the 6-inch screen. Remember, they're measured diagonally, so an inch bigger diagonally is bigger vertically and horizontally. Raven says 6,695 on your write speed is fine. Oh, I agree. Typically, your writes will be a little bit slower than your reads on an NVMe SSD. Mortant said it just started thundering there in Maryland. Yeah, maybe it's coming this way because we're supposed to be getting some rain this weekend, maybe here in Phoenix. We'll be happy to get it. Bill Stodd said, ever since he upgraded to 24H2 of Windows 11, his hard drive light activity is insane, and he's not able to determine why it does that. Yeah, I'm not sure either. Stuff like that can be kind of hard to isolate. You know, in a case like this where you don't have a hard drive LED, you'd never know. You know what I mean? Sometimes the information we have isn't beneficial to us, it's harmful to us. And it's like the guy goes to the doctor and he says, hey doc, it hurts when I do this. And the doc says, well, don't do that. If what you're seeing is a hard drive LED activity that bothers you, we could just disconnect the hard drive LED. And I realize that might sound, preposterous. But then from the other side of it, how many customers ever call for service and say, why does my hard drive LED never turn on? Most customers don't even know what a hard drive LED is or what it does or what it means. So it may be more of an exercise of curiosity than it's doing anything with regards to performance or anything harmful. It would be obvious in the task manager if something was consuming a lot of resources that were causing that. But Windows is always adjusting swap files, adjusting temp files, downloading updates in the background, other applications, virus, maybe updates, doing scans. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Now, if there's something that's doing what it's not supposed to do, and that's causing you a symptom in performance, it should be easily identified in the task manager. But if you're not noticing any performance difference and nothing in the task manager is displaying high CPU usage, I don't think there's a problem there to fix, personally. Just disconnect the LED. This case doesn't even come with an LED, so how would you have ever known if that problem happened on this case? And maybe that's a reason they're starting to remove them. Maybe it's becoming toxic information. I don't know. But if we have a symptom, a system performance degradation that we can isolate or identify, then we can identify again what's causing it. But a light coming on, I don't know that there's anything there to fix. Arnold wants to know if we can get a close-up of the RGB power supply adapter. I don't know that we can. There's your final numbers, by the way, on the Beijing 1 terabyte drive on this board. And of course, if we go full screen on camera 1, and then I switch over to camera 2, which is the close-up camera, I don't know if I can adjust this. It needs to come over this way. Yeah, that is a request that's easily asked, but maybe not easily answered, unfortunately. See if I can turn it this way. Maybe face it downwards? No, up. I can't seem to get it. It's just right at the top of the screen. Let's see if I can adjust the camera a little bit here for you. See if I can honor your request. Go a little bit more. It's hard to see it with the reflection of the lights right in there. I don't know if we can shut some lights down. Is that any better? Hopefully you'll be able to zoom in on that too yourself if you're watching on a cell phone. You can pinch the screen and expand it to zoom in, and it's in 4K, so it should be nice and pretty. And I suppose I might even be able to turn this a little bit more. Sorry. And then if we bring it around here, then you can see the screen. Does that help? Bring the lights back up. All right, other questions, comments, concerns? David Graham mentions to Phil Staw that you can check your hard drive use and make sure it's not pegged at 100%. Windows did have a bug that did that. If you guys can find any links that might explain that in greater detail, that might be more useful to know what to look for, what the bug was, and how it was fixed. Dennis wants to know, where is new Studio C located? We're still in Phoenix, Arizona. Mark Leibowitz suggests Phil run Task Manager and look at the startup programs to see if there's any surprises lurking in there. Sometimes Microsoft likes to slip in some new software they think you might like. You still should be able to see something running in Task Manager that would explain that. Rob Dvorak says, Carey, how much power is being used with the new power supply being on and with the computer front switch turned off? I do have a kilowatt power meter. The problem is I don't know if I can grab it right now where we're live. Usually, when a device is powered off, whether it's a television or a modern day computer, it's still running a little bit of power through it. We call it vampire power, and that enables it to turn on much faster. It's going to be insignificant. It'll be the standard of every computer you've ever seen. It won't be any more and it won't be any less. There's nothing unique about the power supply or the motherboard that differentiates it from any other power supply or motherboard. When the system is off, the same power requirements are the same. Even if you go back 15 or 20 years, it's drawing the exact same amount of power. And it won't matter what power supply you use, and it won't matter what motherboard you use. On any modern day desktop, they're all the same. I hear the fans cranking up and slowing down, and when these fans crank up, I do find them to be quite loud. Now, granted, I have the panels all off of it. It seems awfully loud. I don't know why it's so loud. What is it doing? Downloading updates in the background or something? Let's see. Now they're quieting back down again. It was doing something. And see, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about with hard drive activity, right? The system's always doing stuff in the background. Oh, we got this big out-of-band update that's cumulative. Came out the other day. It's massive, and it's not on the second Tuesday of the month. So it must be pretty important for Microsoft to release it out of band instead of waiting till the second Tuesday of June. But it's big, and it can take a while to install. And I don't know what it's doing, but I know it's important. Now, I don't mind this level of RGB. When we put the panel back on, if we grab, we can grab the lid, put the lid back on here, right? That's easy. No screws. We've got this little piece that goes across the front that has a little cutout for the power, that little extension that's built in. And that, none of these panels go on the same. This panel has little notches. And those notches will fit into the slots. And then it slides forward, and then these thumb screws go on. Maybe this is the quirkiness. No two panels go on the same. The front is magnetic, so it goes on completely different. Grab that front one, right? It's just slides into these two slots down here. These two tabs go into the two slots, and it just magnetically closes. The glass on this side, if we take the plastic off of it, probably plastic on the inside too. Yep. That goes on like this. You just slide the tabs in the slots. And then this has those cabinet closures. You just pop it in there. See, that's enough RGB. That's just enough. Any more than that is, in my opinion, egregious. It's over the top ridiculous. And given the noise on these fans, I think I am definitely going to disconnect those fans on the bottom. We don't really even need the fans in the front, but I do feel like a customer might see that and go, hey, my fans aren't working. And then finally, you just have that one back panel. And with our cabling all kind of sticking out, it'll make it difficult to close, but that will go in similar to the glass in the sense that there's little tabs that go in the bottom, and then you push it forward and it clips into those plastic cabinet style clips. And that's all there is to it. It's very easy to get in and out of. It's very inexpensive at $110, which includes the 6-inch screen, which is very easy to hook up. You don't have to run the cables outside of the case, but just in case you need to, we've even included that instead of nickel and diming you to sell this optionally separately. Being able to buy one of these little RGB adapters to help clean the cable management, add a little RGB. Why not? For 20 bucks, and you get a Go Faster sticker. I've got this white one because I've got a white build. I thought, let's try it in black and in white. So for the white build, we'll use this. I much prefer that to the Lian Li Strimer, and it's a quarter of the price. It's also a quarter of the work and the quarter of the cabling. So what's not to like? It's more subtle, it's more reserved, and I'm good when it comes to RGB about having less is more. Mara, not so much, other way around. So hey, to each our own, you know. You do you. And Barry says, I assume the screen in the front displays Lian Li if no other video signal is sent to it. Yes, yeah, so if it's powered up, it defaults to saying Lian Li. And if we go to Lian Li's website, if we jump over here, just to take a look at the software, we've got a little bit of time. Let me go back over to the desktop. And we can start that install, let that run in the background. I want to save these settings, this results. So I'll click save. I'll type in as soon as I can find my keyboard. File, save image. This will be crystal disk mark. Save it as a JPEG. Oh, wrong mouse, Carey. JPEG over on the desktop. There we go. So I have the results saved. And then we'll open a browser and we'll type in, let's see, start without data. That. We'll select up here. We'll go to Lian Li 207 digital. Holding the keyboard with one hand and typing with the other hand is not exactly the best typing posture. Software. Yeah, let's see if that pulls it up. L-Connect 3 is the screen software guide. What is that? Oh, the L-Connect 3 software is what we want, which is the same as we used for the Strimer cable and the other Lian Li stuff. So let's download that L-Connect 3. Always make sure you're using the latest version for compatibility with the latest drivers and updates from Microsoft Windows, or this could be creating a blue screen error for you if you've never updated it. What do we got? Product setup guides. No, don't want that. Before installing, yeah. L-Connect 3. Download. Grabbing it up here. Kind of beefy, isn't it? Guess I can close this tab, close this tab, close this tab. How's our download doing? Almost there. This board also has Wi-Fi on it, in case I forgot to mention that. And the antennas are in the box. Yeah, I'm not happy with the sound of these fans when they crank up. All right, let's click open the file. Yes. Yeah, you can really hear those fans firing up as it's doing some work. That's not the CPU fan. Those are the case fans. No idea why they're running so. Again, some adjustment in BIOS, but every time the BIOS gets reset, you're going to have to remember how you set it, or you're going to be getting a support call from a customer going, why are the fans so loud again? Battery dies, the BIOS loses its settings, and you're right back to setting it over and over and over again for the life of this computer. Did I install it twice? What's happening here? It looks like I got it twice. That's why it's so slow. Okay. Install. Yeah, I ended up double clicking on it twice, so it felt like that install was going on slow, and it was trying to install it twice at the same time. That's just how much power we've got. You can barely even tell. Yeah, it feels a little bit slow, but it wasn't terrible. Close. Requires a full reboot. All right. Oh, and of course it was doing the update in the background. Well, all that was going on. I forgot I was doing that big cumulative update. So this thing's got power. Like, you know, if you're like me just a minute ago, I was thinking this isn't running all that fast. It's not bad, but it should be like lickety split. But now when I do a double installation while at the same time doing a cumulative Windows update, Now I'm starting to understand why those fans were cranking up. That all makes sense now. All right. And Phil, of course, you can reach out to us in email for more help with this, diagnosing this problem. The system just turned off. I'm assuming it's going to turn back on. Or not. It just completely shut off on me. Really? After a reboot, the whole thing just shut off. Why would it not just restart? All right, I'm going to hit the power button, wake it back up. There we go. Dustin Fuller with a $2 super chat says, great stream as always, Carey and Mara. Thank you, Dustin, and thank you for your super chat. And yeah, Phil, if you reach out to us in email, we can work with you on that. I don't think it's something we're going to easily resolve in a live video here. I like that the little RGB power adapter thingy doesn't have any software, thank goodness. And that we would use MSI's motherboard ARGB software to control that, and hopefully identifies the ORICO RAM, and we don't have to install any software for that to control the RGB and have it all synchronized. This is time and effort I don't normally spend on business computers. And I have found that it can take hours of my time as I keep adjusting, trying to find what I like, the brightness, the speed, etc., etc. So here it comes up with our L-Connect 3 software, and it should be identifying our front computer panel, but is it done anything to the front panel? No, it just says Lian Li up there. So let me put camera 1 in the corner. Let me move this. CPU load, GPU low. Of course, GPU's on the CPU. 207 digital. Oh, it does identify our case. And we have some predefined options here. Give that a second to load. Double click it maybe? What do I do to do that? Oh, I guess I hit apply. Aha! Okay, so that gives us some information. Let's go to the next one. Hit apply. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's cute. Go to that one. Hit apply. And you can do your own custom stuff too. This one. Apply. Hey, that's neat. This one. Apply. It just looks like the same thing with a lighter color. This one with like the police are pulling you over. This one. Apply. Oh, ooh. That seems completely useless. I like it. This one. Apply. Hey, for 110 bucks and this is all included? Are you kidding me? Deal of the century. How about this one? Cool. one last one here. And I'm sure you can probably go to forums and there's probably user-created sharing that you can look at. And that actually gives the screen some purpose, right? If you want to utilize it, I'm curious, can I utilize it as a second monitor? Ooh, will it let me do that? I mean, I don't think I could read anything on it, but it'd be kind of cute. And then, you know, what we're monitoring, we can select that as well. Default, change background, custom theme, theme info, modular. Oh, you can put things together. That's cool. Additional. Offline mode. Oh, that's cool. So when you turn the computer off, it'll display a clock. Secondary screen. Clicking the on-off switching function will make the screen an external display for the computer. Disable the sub-channel function in the enable editing operation. Oh, hold on, it's doing something. That's my desktop. So I guess I can, where is it? Is it to the right, to the left? What if I duplicated the display? Did I do that? Let's see, full screen. I mean, in theory, it should see two displays now, right? Right click, display settings, duplicate. Oh, well, the resolution is going to have to be the lowest common denominator, right? So everything's going to look massive on my main monitor in order for it to fit on the small monitor. That's why they didn't default to that. So if we want to extend the displays, then you can have two different resolutions. That way you get the best that the big monitor can do and the best that the little monitor can do. And it's to my up and to my right if I want to move the mouse to it. So if I move up and to the right, whoopsie, what just happened? Oh, my power cable is just about falling out. Whoops. Let's turn that back on. Let that boot back up. That's a very nice implementation. There's also a little screen down here, a filter screen, because your power supply is right under there. You want to make sure you get that dusted out regularly because your power supply is bringing air into the power supply and then out the back here. So you could be suffocating your power supply and your power supply could be overheating, or you're fascinated looking at your GPU and CPU temps that are rarely, if ever, a problem. In the meantime, your power supply is about ready to catch fire. So unfortunately, it still requires human judgment and eyeballs. It's not just a one-size-all-fits-all solution for solving all computer problems or monitoring all computer temps. As far as I know, there is no power supply temp monitoring available other than your eyeballs. Like using a GPS, you don't just turn blindly when it says to turn. You wait until the turn is, you know, it might tell you to turn when you're on a bridge, for example. Common sense would suggest you don't do that. It might tell you to drive straight right into a lake. So the GPS is an assistant, it's not meant to take over. In much the same way, the monitoring software, it can be useful, but it's not universally, you know, that's all you have to worry about. There's still reason for you to exist in the sense that you as a human can use judgment, you can hear and smell and see things the computer can't. And this does not replace that. Now, what I'm curious about, if I go back to 207 digital here, let's turn the secondary screen off, because I don't think that's useful at all, quite frankly. It's too little. But as a display for monitoring temps and things, you don't need a big screen for that. So if we go back to our 207 digital after it resets, and we can pick, I don't know, which one did I like? I thought this one was pretty cool. It is a little hard to read the numbers though. But you can put your own thing together. Like these numbers look a lot easier to read. Yeah, maybe I'll just stick with that. And if I shut the machine off, it should display the time. Let's shut her down. Now, any machine that has built-in RGB that stays on when the computer is off is going to trickle a little bit more power accordingly, depending on how much of that you've got. The screen is not staying on for us, so let me turn it back on one more time and just double check my settings on that. Also, there may be a setting in the BIOS that has to be adjusted for that as well. If the BIOS supports it, it may support power when the machine's off through the USB. Some motherboards allow for that, some don't. Some it's permanently enabled and some permanently disabled. So which one is it? I don't know. Let's go to, oh, that tells us our system specs there. Settings, auto run on boot, hide the system tray. Yeah. Back over here under additional, offline clock. When you slide the switch to on, the computer will display the current time and date even when it's turned off. Let me just reset that. Back on, back off. And one more time, let's shut it down. Because if the motherboard's cutting power to USB, then I don't know how that's going to display the time. Yeah, I mean, it's cut it entirely. So that's going to require a compatible motherboard, apparently, for that function to work. Still a great implementation. And again, we might be able to go into the BIOS just to see if there's an option for leaving power on the USB. Like I said, some boards have it, some boards don't. I'm not thinking a board at the budget end is going to do it, but let's take a quick look. I don't think it's going to be under hardware monitor. No, it's not there. What about motherboard settings? Advanced USB configuration. See anything in them? Could be under power settings. Not under boot. Shouldn't be under status. No. No. Nope. Definitely not going to be under there. Discrete Thunderbolt support. I guess this must have a header if you want to add Thunderbolt to it. Curious what legacy USB support does. Just put it on auto. Super I/O with serial parallel. Power management. USB standby power. Let's try that. And then save and exit. Maybe that'll do it. Phil Stodd mentions he stopped making adjustments to the registry back in the days of XP. It should not have to be necessary today. Well said, Phil Stodd. I agree with you 100%. With a few exceptions, I would not be jumping into the registry for this problem. When there are known issues, I would still even prefer to go through the group policy editor or something, or PowerShell commands, than to go into the registry old school. There still may be an exception, but I would only jump to that if and only necessary. Okay, so we're back up and running over here. Let's shut it back down. Start, shut down. And do we get a clock now? Well, it's still giving us. Oh, there it goes. It just took a minute. That is working now in military time. So there you go. Problem has been identified and resolved. Oh, I do like this. At $109. And again, I think in the BIOS I can tweak these fans to basically be silent, or I could just unplug the two bottom fans, quite frankly. But the fan noise looks like, at least with the MSI BIOS, that there's some more options that we can explore for more silent operation. This is not a high performance i7 or i9. With an i5 with a stock cooler, it shouldn't need all these fans. And the idea that they're ramping up and reacting the way that they are is a bit overkill for this build configuration. But you think about how much money that we have into this. Say we've got $100 in the RAM, $100 in the, let's say 125 on the motherboard, $100 on the NVMe drive. So that's 325, right around 270 for the CPU with the cooler. So that brings us around, let's just call it 600. 110 for the case. 20 bucks for the RGB adapter for the motherboard power, and $40. Actually, I think I paid $30 I think for the power supply because it was a return. It was 30 bucks. 25 or 30. I'm going to call it 30. Or under $800 in all the parts you see here, minus the keyboard and mouse. On a 14500 with a return board, even if the board wasn't returned, it's another 50 bucks. That includes the 4 fans. And it's a rocket ship. It's fast. And it's got a little 6-inch screen. I'd say it's pretty good value. What say you? Mortant said it looks nice. I agree. I think Lian Li is undercharging for this. This is $165 all day in my book. Could have chose a better motherboard. You know, that I/O shield's not the best. It's silver and everything else is black. But it does give us the Type-C up here and our 2 USB 3 Type-A's up front. So I appreciate that, you know, whatever you're plugging in, you can rest on top. It's not going to hang off the middle. You've got some airflow underneath here. There's a little groove here, so air can get up under there. It's easy to get in. Plenty of screws. Extra parts that you might need, but hopefully don't, are included just in case. That's very thoughtful. What else do you want? I want them to pay me to use it. Okay, I want that too. What else can you want besides that? Morton says, I really don't need another computer, but I like the case. So you must not have seen Studio C. I need another computer like I need another hole in my head. But I just had to build it. I had to. And then I had to buy a motherboard and a CPU to build into this case that I don't need, because it seemed like it was too good to be true. And I'll be darned, it's exactly, I imagined it's pictured and everything exactly right. And we'll talk a little bit more in depth with Mike's unboxing and find out what the quirks are, because I don't find any quirks. Barry Klein said, I feel like I'm becoming afflicted by Carey acquisition syndrome again. I have absolutely no justification for another computer, but it's just so damn pretty. Well, what about upgrading the computer you got now? Take the parts out of it, put it into a nicer case. Then you're just, you know, you can give a case away. It's easier to part with a case. Goldscamp said it's Intel, so make sure to update the BIOS. Absolutely, and you should be updating the BIOS if it's AMD too. Their chips are burning up. I don't know if you're just only reading the left side of the news. There's another side to the news. Look at all the bad info on Intel. What about the bad info on the AMD? Yeah, but these Intels are burning up. Yeah, but these AMDs are burning up. Shut up, I'm not talking to you about AMD. I'm focused here on Intel. Don't mess with my agenda in my bias. Yes?
Just as a reminder, there's links in the video notes for the Lian Li templates for that.
Where do the templates come from? From Lian Li?
Some that come directly from Lian Li. There's another ones that have.
Yeah, there's a whole community designing these templates. What do you think of the clock being there when the system's off?
I like it.
What do you think of the system overall?
I like it. It's
not enough RGB for you?
Well, I usually do more, but
a little more. And there's room.
If you were to stick my GPU in there, that might actually.
That's true. There's plenty of room for that, plenty of cooling.
Yeah.
That would justify those other two fans.
And it's got RGB.
And that, yeah, video card has RGB on it as well. True. And it wouldn't add much cabling because the video card just needs some power cables running to it. And I do think they sell these adapters for that as well. Those little angled adapters. They would be a 90-degree adapter versus a 180-degree. And you could get all that matching if you wanted to. And then, of course, with the MSI Mystic software on the motherboard, we can control the RGB on the board and that adapter, and I think the RAM too, all through one piece of software. Danielle Emberley says, I've only built 3 computers in recent years, and I often feel overwhelmed storing the part boxes. I don't think it's necessary to save the boxes unless you really are really concerned about the person who you're going to sell it to for a fraction of what you paid having the box. Like, the box is usually saved for resale. If you're not planning to resell it, or you are planning to resell it, having the box probably won't make you any more money. It just means you have to store more stuff. So I'm only going to keep one box. That's the motherboard box. This will go in the trash. This will go in the motherboard box. This will go in the motherboard box. And the power cable will go in the motherboard box along with any documentation. Any other box that any other component came in, from the RAM to the storage to the power supply, all goes in the recycle bin. I will tell you from experience, buyers will not pay you more because you have the boxes. It's not worth saving the boxes. If you think you're going to be moving or shipping the computer, then putting it back in its case box is beneficial. But again, you could just wrap it in bubble wrap if and when that time comes, and it's the same thing. So yeah, it's very easy to get overwhelmed with all the boxes. I mean, ask yourself, when's the last time you've pulled any of these old boxes out for any reason? And if the answer is, I can't think of a time when I needed it, I don't know what you're saving them for. Mark Leibowitz says he's got to run. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks for hanging out, Mark. Thank you again to our supporters. There were some very generous contributions today. And a shout out once again and a thank you to, of course, Buster with very generous support. Our friend Mark Gaines, of course, and as always, thank you for your generosity as well. Thank you goes out to Charlie Purdy, another very generous contribution here with an Amazon gift card. And for all the super chats, which are somewhere in my screen. Hold on. Say thank you again to, again, Buster and Charlie Purdy that also contributed in super chat as well. Our friend Alan Lindus. Thank you to Mark Baggett for renewing membership, as did Michael Lavelle today. Thanks, guys. The Rock Goose became a new member and contributed €11. Thank you, The Rock Goose. Colin Hunt also renewed his membership, now a member 36 months. Michael Lavelle's a member for 31 months now. You guys rock. Peter VZ, thank you for your super chats today, as well as Colin Hunt and Barry Klein. Jose Lopez and Frankie B. I think I missed those earlier. My apologies, but a shout out to you guys. Craig Wilson, now a member for 3 months. And Nick Caffrey, now a member for 17 months. Thank you for renewing. Nick also gives us a super chat. Paul Vercher with $9.99. Thank you, Paul. Rick Lakes with a $5 super chat. Thank you to Charles Griffin for your super chat. Jack Kugelmess with a $5 Canadian super chat. Andy Kane with a €2 super chat. Mark Gaines with another super chat. Our friend David Graham and Dustin Fuller, thank you for your super chats. You guys are our sponsors, and we very much appreciate having you as sponsors versus corporate America. Lian Li has not provided us anything ever, and today's video is no different. We paid for this case using money accrued from what is now basically just memberships and super chats. All YouTube ad revenue is so low. Maybe a month's worth I could buy 2 of these cases. That's it, without including any internal components. That used to be the way YouTube was monetized, and it was working well. But, you know, people got to use ad blockers, and I said this was going to happen. I said, you guys keep using the ad blockers, the ads are going to lose any value, and then content creators are going to have to find another way. That's exactly what happened. Human nature is human nature. So now we are dependent on our supportive community to determine how often, how frequently we make videos, and how much budget we have to spend. And then every once in a while, a company like Minis Forum or maybe Paladin will send us a mini PC to review, or ORICO today sent us that RAM to review. And we certainly appreciate that. And other than that, like Feijing, they've never paid us a dime. Thermaltake's never worked with us ever. So it's really because of you guys that we're able to continue these videos. And for everybody who watches them who doesn't contribute for any reason, they need to understand that if not for the supporting members, this content would not be available for anybody. Because at the end of the day, someone's got to pay for it. And by so many members contributing amounts, it adds up. And one single computer build video is $1,000. And if I'm doing 3 to 5 videos a week, that means we have a budget of around $10,000 to $20,000 a month just to create content. And we don't make that. I don't want you to think for a minute we get even close to that. So we do try and do things that don't cost any money, like just hang out and talk, or talk about what's in the news, or share tips and tricks. All of that's free to do. But if we're going to show you new products like this Gravistar keyboard and mouse, that's all been paid for with your contributions. And I want you to see your contributions end up on the screen. They're not going to my Tijuana slush fund. Oh, maybe someday. Maybe someday. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. Thanks to Mara, of course, our channel administrator, who does all the thumbnails and all the links in the show notes. And everything we've used in this build is all linked in the video notes. Thanks to Mara, along with, as she mentioned, other templates for the screen that Lian Li recommends, community created in their communities and shared amongst them. And of course, our friends at SCD Keys, they offer you a 30% discount for Windows and Office license keys with 6 months of support that are real, legitimate, legal license keys. This is not a commission-based sale. If you want to buy it and save 30% from a reputable seller without rolling the dice, hoping you get a legitimate product that's not stolen, or someone doesn't just take your money and not respond and there's no recourse. When it comes to license keys or when it comes to running my business, I don't gamble with it. And the 30% off doesn't make any sense to pirate it or go to anybody less expensive. It's not worth the risk. They're not that expensive to begin with. So it's there for the viewers. It's not there for me. If you buy it or you don't buy it, I'm not profiting and I'm not losing. But I do hope that if you need a key, that you'll utilize them. They support us here, and hopefully you'll support them in return and save money and have peace of mind you're not going to get ripped off. Thanks to all of our members, as always. Without you, well, the show would be very different at this point. And of course, our friend Buster, with your extreme generosity, and Charlie Purdy and Mark Gaines, you guys have been very generous to us, and we can't thank you enough for that. But true of all members and all supporters, even the folks that just come in and hang out with us in the chat, we appreciate your joining us and supporting us socially. It's great to have you here. As long as you're a kind person, you're all welcome in. I guess now just be a subscriber, which is free. All right, I think that'll wrap it up. I hope you have a great rest of your Friday. Have a wonderful weekend. I think I'm back on Sunday with another video. I think. We'll see how the renovations go. Not sure if they're working on the weekend or not yet. Otherwise, definitely we're back on Monday for members-only videos. It's a benefit of membership to come hang out with me and other members only on private videos only intended for members to watch and members to interact with. In the meantime, have a great weekend. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all very, very soon. And if you're looking for some more content, check out Mike's unboxing, reviews, and how-to. If you like my content, I think you'll enjoy his as well. And a shout out to him just to say thank you for hanging out with us today as well. Until next time, bye for now.